Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey. It's great to have you guys here. It's a little bit of an early show this week, so we're going to be a little bit scattered. We got Anthony LaRocco coming on in about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes. And, of course, I'm your host, Mark Williams, who still misplaces his nameplate after all these years still. All right. And joined by the host of the Final Buzzer, Mr. John Fulkowski.
Yeah, got some UFA targets to go over with the Athletics' Peter Bow, who just put a article up earlier today about it, the Athletics. So check that out if you haven't. But we will be talking about that. We'll probably mention a couple of trade targets. I think some other ones that he might have missed. And we got some other stuff to talk about around the league, including the Islanders and their GM search.
Yeah, and of course, Phil, the very exciting NHL playoffs that's going on. We'll actually give a grade for that later on in the show. But make sure, everybody, that you're smashing that like button and, of course, getting our subscriber count up. We're making videos. You guys are watching them. And sorry, Phil, I just hit your face for a second. Phil, let's go right to the A block and let's start talking about the NHL playoffs, which have been absolutely outstanding so far. And, of course, A Block is brought to you by SeatGeek. Use the promo code Big Apple Hockey for $20 off your first order. And Big Apple Hockey trucker hats and shirts are available. Click the link down below. But, Phil, like I said, we're going to start with the NHL playoffs, then go right into some of those UFA targets. But let's go to Game 3 of that Vegas-Edmonton series. I turned it off after the game tying goal went in from off of Brayden McNabb's skate, going, all right, well, it's going to be one of those games. I had a long day ahead that was in front of me. But then I was thinking, oh, it's going to go to overtime, Phil. Nope, didn't go to overtime. Reilly Smith scored with 0.4 seconds remaining on the clock. Yeah. I wonder where that was when he was in New York. And but Edmonton gets a shutout from Stuart Skinner, who came on for the injured Calvin Pickard. Phil, what are your thoughts right now on this series?
It's funny because the first thing that comes to mind for me is the fact that Edmonton has been called the Nick Dreisaitl's or the Nick Dries or the Dry Davids, whatever the hell you want to call them, in terms of
I think you got to put the Mick first.
McDavid and a Draisaitl ran team, and not that's it. But this series has been, and this playoff run really for the most part has been kind of catapulted for Edmonton by their depth scoring. Their depth scoring has been big. Adam Henrique, 2 goals last night. Matthias Janmark's been big for them. Connor Brown, Zach Hyman, a lot of the guys that you don't expect to be putting in, the offensive numbers have been putting up numbers for them. And especially, Adam Henrique in this series so far. It looks like he's turning back the clock. He had his first 2-goal game in the playoffs since 2012. Yeah. So in 13 years that he's had his first 2-goal game. So, this is good for Edmonton because you're going to need your depth scoring. You need your depth scoring to win in the playoffs. You need them to come through and score big goals for you. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, while they're having very good postseasons, have not had the postseasons that they've had in the past. If you just look at the numbers, they don't lie to you. McDavid, if they get to the finals, will probably have another 30-point postseason. But after he's had 34 assists and broke Wayne Gretzky's playoff assist record for most assists in a postseason and had a 40-point postseason, becoming the 3rd player in NHL history to do so last year, this is a down year for those two. A big-time down year for them. So, Dominic Kim is right. Their bottom 6 has been on fire. Connor Brown has been a thorn in both LA and Vegas' side in each series. He's been a pain in the ass. Guys like Kulak have been playing well for them. Brett Kulak's been good for them. Darnell Nurse has been solid for them. And in the grand scheme of things, he may not be a depth player, but from the responsibilities chart, if you will, the level of responsibility that you expect, for someone to pick up the slack and the production, going down that totem pole, Nurse is probably not in the top 3 or 4. He's maybe 5 at this point, and Nurse has been pretty good for them. I mean, he did not have a great game 3. I will say that he looked awful in game 3, but he bounced back in a big way last night. And yeah, you could say Darnell Nurse is to Edmonton fans what Trouba is to Rangers fans, but Darnell Nurse is a better defenseman than Jacob Trouba is or ever was. And
yeah, also Trouba being the captain changed a lot.
I know you meant Miro Heiskanen, but I mean, if you're going to chirp Mark, I got to chirp you, Gabe. Heineken is a shitty beer, though, if you ask me. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
But, Darnell Nurse has really been pretty good for them overall, I would say. So definitely happy about Darnell Nurse having a big bounce back season. But it's the depth. In years past, the depth hasn't been good for them. And now the depth is providing for them this year. And that's the difference. And I said it yesterday. If they can get goaltending, like just decently reliable goaltending, I'm not even talking about elite level or Igor Shesterkin putting up a 25 goal save above expected in the playoffs type goaltending. I'm talking about goaltending that can just win them games. We're talking like the Jack Morris example I gave in last week's stream.
Yes. Although I think Morris deserves a little more credit.
What's that?
I think Morris deserves a little bit more credit, but keep going.
No, I listen. I'm not trying to take away from Jack Morris. I'm just saying Jack Morris pitched more than good enough to raise his level to whoever he was facing on that other mound. And then, keeping his team in the games. So, yes, I think if they get reliable enough goaltending, they're a truly, truly dangerous team.
Just saying, Dave had autocorrect going off.
Yeah.
Phil, you're right about that. And again, I think I have to go with that. The most valuable piece of that team is Chris Knobloch. And they went from, I forgot if it was Dave Tippett right to Jay Woodcroft. And now it's Knobloch. If I'm missing somebody, please put it in the comments. But Knobloch, when he really gets his hands on the team, like the first couple games of the LA series, you can look at it going, this is going to be a sweep. You don't have to worry about it. Even the first 4 games, you could say that. Jim Hiller makes an ill-advised challenge. Don't know why he did that. They reviewed the play, said it with the goal stands, then tells them to review it again. Series. Yeah, and that changed everything. You're tied at 4. Maybe you go on, you get the next goal. You're up 3-0. Nobody comes back from that, even though Edmonton is a team that clearly could force Game 7 in that series, even if they did go up 3-0. But then they had them on the ropes in Game 4, and then they couldn't get the puck out of the zone. After that, Edmonton really took over and started playing a lot better just in that series, and it's carried over into this one as well. Darcy Kemper had to be heroic in order to keep them close in Game 5 in the first round. Edmonton has really dominated Vegas in these rounds, and you could really say since the third period of game 1, when Edmonton scored the 3 goals. The game winner not looking all that great to go by Aiden Hill. And now you look at last night, Stuart Skinner registered a shutout. He was the 3rd star of the game, Philk. That's basically saying, hey, you guys played great team defense. He didn't have to do jack squat. And that's what, yeah. And most of it was in the 3rd period when they were already up big. Like that game was no longer in doubt. So I do think Vegas is at least going to push the 6. They were my Stanley Cup pick, and they're about to go down. I'm about to be left with nothing. You guys are already left with nothing because the Avs and Tampa Bay are out. So I looked at Vegas and thought they were going to have an easy road. This has not been easy. And, even if Vegas wins the series going forward, I'm not exactly liking their odds. Looking at the other game that played last night, Phil, and this is the only way to sum it up. Carolina Hurricanes dominate the Washington Capitals, and this series looks like it could end in the next game, even though it's in Washington. Phil, give Caps fans any reason for hope.
I can't give them any reason for hope. And the reason why I'm going to say that is it comes down to one thing for me, and it's goaltending. And Freddie Anderson's been good. And, I mean, has he been overly challenged? No, but he's been good. And really, yeah, I mean, this was something I was going to get to. Yeah. Because I've been saying it for weeks now. But, yeah, when you have that many players that are having career years and their career highs in shooting percentage and just guys that are just producing well above their means, it's going to run out eventually, especially when you face a better team, and that team is faster than them. And just like with Edmonton and LA, and Vegas, which I was going to say is that Edmonton's team speed is just too much for Vegas. Carolina's team speed is way too much for Washington. It might even be a bigger disparity. The only thing that kind of, I guess if you want to hold on to one piece of hope, is that Logan Thompson has proven that he can play at a very, very high level. If you get like that elite goaltending, that serious stealing type goaltending from Logan Thompson, Carolina tends to take a lot of low percentage shots from the point. If they can just let Logan Thompson see those shots and take away the deflections and the screens, I mean, maybe Washington could get back into the series, but it's going to be like climbing Mount Everest with your bare hands and feet, especially with Anderson actually playing well and then limiting the high danger chances in front of him, because Anderson's own worst enemy has been himself for years and years in the playoffs. And he's always been prone to that one goal that he lets up, whether it was the Alexis Lafreniere goal in Game 3 or the Chris Kreider goal, the first one in Game 6. Some of the other bad goals he let up in that series against the Rangers. I don't think he's going to do that in this series. And I think they're going to close this out in 5. I just don't see Washington being good enough. And I just think that, who was it that was calling the game last night that said they were just a step behind the play every time? Literally just 110% accurate.
I believe it was Kenny and
I think it was Boucher said it. I think it was Brian Boucher was with Kenny last night, and I think Brian Boucher said it. And just they're a step behind. They are, and Carolina's speed is just too much for this team. So, do they get that brink of elimination boost? They always say the 4th win is the hardest one to get,
and it is. It is. This is where young teams, Phil, and teams that don't have a lot of experience, despite the fact that you have Tom Wilson on that team, John Carlson on that team, Alexander Ovechkin on that team. This is where the how we doing, guys? This is where the majority of the experience really comes into play, and we're going to see that. Can their veteran guys talk the youth into basically showing up for one more game? They got to get something out of. There's a lot of the guys that just haven't performed in this series. Connor McMichael, I haven't seen much of. Comes to mind. But
now, are we going Rod Stewart here, or are we going
Sheryl Crow?
Sheryl Crow.
Probably, I would say Rod Stewart. Go with the original.
Rod Stewart, yeah.
Even though Sheryl Crow did a very good cover of that. But, Phil, this is where it's a learning experience. Carolina's been here a bunch of times, And there's a big question we're going to have in our pickup statement, our pickup segment about the Carolina Hurricanes. By the way, we're going to have some more NHL playoffs coverage coming in our NHL Bar Talk coming up in about 20 minutes. But first, let's go to the New York Rangers potential UFA targets, according to the Athletics, Peter Ball. And these are contract projections that are provided by AFP Analytics. Phil, give me the lead in on those guys.
So Peter Ball put up an article in the Athletic today about the top targets that he sees for the New York Rangers in the UFA market. We're going to go from forwards to defensemen. So first we're starting with Mikael Granlund between Dallas and San Jose. 83 games played, 22 goals, 66 points. He had a $5 million AAV this year. His projected contract would be for 2 years, $4.975 million basically per year. I think he's going to get more than that. I think AFP is selling him a little short here. AFP has been pretty good. If you didn't see the video of Frank Saravalli's most recent top 50 trade board, or top 50 UFA board, he goes and he talks about AFP and how accurate they are with their predictions and how they've been with some of the guys that have recently signed. He even noting that they nailed Neil Pionk's contract to the exact years and AAV. But I do think that AFP is selling Granlund a little short. I think he possibly could get another year of term on top of that. I think it's going to be closer to the 5.5 range, maybe even 6 million. I think there's someone that'll probably go and give him that number. I don't see him as a fit for the Rangers. I don't think they're going to go there with it. I think they'll go for a middle six center. I think that they'll keep JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck at 1 and 2, unless they can find a better option maybe in the trade market for a number 2 center. So that's just me. After that, they have Ryan Donato. And with Chicago this year, 31 goals, 31 assists, 62 points on a $2 million a year deal for this, basically. That's a steal. But they're projecting him at 3 years and a little over $4.2 million per. That's somebody that I think the Rangers would take a flyer on. I think you would probably agree on that. I mean, well, he could project as a middle six guy if they need him to.
31 goals, 31 assists would make you want to take a flyer on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder where they go with that, just because of the fact that it's going to be tough for them to make the cap space. There's another thing that we'll talk about in a little bit regarding that as well, but that would be a player that I would be interested in. Peter goes on to mention Jonathan Drouin, 43 games played, 37 points, which is pretty good. That's like a 70-point season over 82 at 2.5 million AAV for Jonathan Drouin this year, but he's looking at 3 years and just over 4.2 million as well. So I don't know if I would give him that. I'm not sure. I'm not the biggest Jonathan Drouin fan.
Neither am
I. If you want to talk about McKinnon merchants, which is something we'll get into later, Jonathan Drouin might be the one. So, but we're also going to go to a familiar face and one that a certain member of the New York Rangers community might be going oogly googly over once he sees this. Patrick Kane, 72 games, 59 points. Not a bad season for a 35-year-old. Projected contract at 1 year, $3.475 million. You know what? I think he stays in Detroit. It's not Sam Reinhart. He's under contract. It's Sam Bennett that you're thinking of. And Sam Bennett is going to be somebody that I think he's going to get paid, but I don't. Peter Bow doesn't list him in this article. Funny enough, because he thinks that I don't think he thinks that we're going to get him, just because I don't think the Rangers are going to want to spend the cap space. Trent Frederick is the next option. And by the way, stay away from Kane. I don't think it's happening anyway.
And by the way, he's 36. He'll be 37 in November.
36, going on 37 years old. Yeah. And yeah, you know who I'm talking about when I start talking about oogly googly. So, yeah. But Trent Frederick would be someone that I would be personally interested in. I think that AAV is not too bad. I think he could possibly even go lower just because of the bad year that he had compared to his 2 previous seasons. But Trent Frederick in somewhere in the $3 to $3.5 million range to come in and be like a third line center for this team and give this team some size, some snarl, and some fight. Yeah, I like that idea. I do. I just wouldn't go too big on the contract. He's the type of guy that Chris Drury wants, though. We all know this. Another guy who I have mentioned many times in the last few years about bringing in as a trade piece has been Yanni Gourde. And he had a down year because of injuries. But at 3.789, under $4 million for 2 years, I could get on board with that. And, they need some skill and some grit in the bottom 6. And Yanni Gourde would be a really good third-line center for them. I think that's what they're going to look to do. I think that when you're looking at players and the type of players that they want to bring in, he fits the mold of the way that they want this team to play. And I think he also fits the mold of the way that Mike Sullivan would want to play. Gritty, north-south, in-your-face, up-tempo hockey. That's what I think Mike Sullivan wants to do. And I think Yanni Gourde fits that perfectly. The injuries and the age are obviously a concern, but you're not bringing him in to score 20 goals and 60 points anymore. You're bringing him in to give you 30 to 40 points and give you responsible and gritty two-way play as a third-line center. So, I mean, if he can stay healthy, I definitely don't mind him at that number. I would try to maybe at 3.5, try to get him down to that. But, I mean, if he comes in at 3.7, 3.75, 3.8, whatever, I'd be happy with that. That would be a very good third-line center. And they're going to address that position. That's something that they're going to fill in this year. They're not going to add, and no offense to Johnny Brodzinski, who I think has been a very good Ranger these last couple of years. They're not going to go into this year with Johnny Brodzinski as a third-line center. I'm sorry, they're just not.
And also, keep in mind, Sullivan, to his Stanley Cup teams,
Ford plays with speed.
There's one of those things that was the biggest components for him was Matt Cullen. And Matt Cullen was tremendous to the Penguins winning those Stanley Cups. People might want to be like, fourth-line center, really? When you look at the New York Rangers in their most successful times, their fourth-line centers were huge for them. Whether or not it was Dominic Moore, Brian Boyle, who was also the center in 2014, Moore again in 2015. And then you look at 2022, it was basically, and the last year was Barclay Goodrow. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, I'll say this. Matt Cullen, that ACC line was awesome for them in that 2007 stretch run in playoffs. Avery, Cullen, and Callahan. That was great. So Matt Cullen was very good for them. You need a guy like that to come in. I think Yanni Gourde can come in and play that way. Yes, Josh, I do agree. I think we're going to talk.
We're going to be talking more about that later.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little more about that later. But I definitely think that Yanni Gourde could come in and play that type of game. Another player who Peter brings up to actually be a good fit, maybe as a fourth-line center, would be Adam Gaudette. I mean, 19 goals and 26 points in 81 games. I think his AAV is probably going to be higher than that. AFP has been pretty good, but I think he's going to cash in. I think someone's going to give him more than that. I think it's going to be somewhere between like 1.25 and 2 million. I think that's the range you're looking at for him. I could be wrong, totally wrong. I've been wrong before, but I don't. Yeah, and this is a good point about Cullen. How many faceoffs did he take, for cup clinching games, and how good was 2017 for them? Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy, absolutely. But I think Gaudette could be a target. He would be a cheaper target that they could come in and bring in as a fourth line center. I feel like I would want to give Edstrom more of a shot at that point, because I think Edstrom can come in and possibly give you 10 goals and 20 points on an entry-level deal, and he's got speed and size and physical play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he could turn into the perfect fourth-line center.
Adam Edstrom, if they gave up on him, would be one of the biggest mistakes the Rangers could make.
Yeah, I think it would be a massive, massive mistake to give up on him. I mean, if they want to bring in guys around him, yeah, I could see that. Yes, Sam Carrick is still under contract, and he's been
he is
good for them. But you can move on from Sam Carrick. You can move on from that contract if you want to. One of the, and this is going to be, these are the last two forward options Peter Bow gives us. Christian Dvorak. He's more of a third line option. 82 games, 33 points, 12 goals. 2 years at 1.765. Yeah, he's not going to get that 4.45 million or anywhere near that. Could be a very useful bottom six player. I think 2.25 million, maybe 2.5 million at most would be something that he could get. I just don't see him being that 4.45 million guy again. He was being paid more like a second line forward at that point. He's not that anymore. Wouldn't be a bad fit, but I don't know if I'd really go after him. Kind of a vanilla player. He's not a big world beater or someone who's like a huge help, but he doesn't hurt you either. I think that they may be more amenable to Lars Eller than him.
Mm-hmm.
I think, a 1 year, $2 million for Lars Eller would be something that would definitely interest the Rangers. He's got size. He has been a scorer in the past. He's not really much of a scorer anymore, but I still think he can give you 10 to 15 goals depending on who he's playing with and what role, and maybe 20 to 30 points. And if you get that at 2.1 or 2.25 million, that's a pretty good deal. I get why people are not too high on this class.
Oh yeah.
No, that I did all the abbreviations. So I wanted to. If there was a Vancouver one there, I was going to mess with everybody and put VCR like Friedman. But I definitely do think that these are some realistic targets. So Peter was definitely trying to stay within the realm of fiscal reality, if you will. He only gives two defensemen, and the first one is the one that everybody's likely going to talk about, and that's Vladislav Gavrikov. I don't like this contract at all. I don't. 7.6 million, and I get it. His underlying numbers are great. He's very good defensively. He blocks a ton of shots. I just have a lot of qualms about paying a guy that plays the way that he does that type of deal for that long, because I've gotten Stahl and Girardi PTSD. And listen, Gavrikov's better than those guys when they got those contracts. Listen, Stahl, it's hard to say anything about Stahl because Stahl back in the day when he was younger, his first I would say from his second season to his fourth season, he was one of the top defensive defensemen in the league. And he was still a good skater, back then. But that after the Eric hit and the shot to the face with the eye injury, he just was not the same player. And anyone could see it. Anyone could see it. And they went and they gave him and Girardi those terrible contracts, and it just did not work out for them. And yeah, Jay, the NMC is the biggest thing.
Yeah, but the player might not want to sign it without the NFC. That's the other thing. The players want stability and structure. They don't want to have somebody that's going to, well, right now, they're going to really want those NMCs. I hate to break that news to everybody because of what happened with Goudreau and Trouba.
Yeah, and Brandon Tanev, that's going to be a good one. I could see him staying, but to kind of make a point about that and just address something, I'm probably going to do a more complete board somewhere closer to free agency time. And we'll go over a lot more players. And I think I'll mix in some trade targets in there as well. So be on the lookout for that. I would admit, probably sometime in June I'll do that. But we just wanted to kind of go over the names that were on this article. So Gavrikov is only one of two defensemen he mentions. The other is Brian Dumoulin. And 80 games played, 22 points. 2 years, 3.189 to come in on the left-hand side. Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible deal. I don't know if Dumoulin can handle first-line minutes anymore, but it would be a good pickup for them.
Also, Phil, to go into this would be a Mike Sullivan guy.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. That's a really, really, really good point. So you bring in a guy like that that's got, 2 Stanley Cups to his name. He's familiar with the coach. The coach obviously loves him. But yeah, Sean, I do agree with you. Like, I feel like Tanev is a guy that they would want. I feel like Sullivan would love Tanev. And actually, I believe Sullivan did coach Tanev in Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly.
Did. No, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, so it's I do think that's maybe a reunion that could happen. Yeah, Tanev was there in 2019, 2020 and played 68 games in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, Brandon Tanev could definitely
just 2020? I thought he was in there for much longer than that.
No, it's only – you know what? I thought it was longer too, but it wasn't. It's only one season. But, yeah, I definitely feel like Brandon Tanev could be a target. I just wonder – I wonder what the AAV is going to be for him. I mean –
He was there 2 seasons. Sorry, he was there in the shortened season.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was 2 seasons. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Phil. I remember when we were doing the playoff coverage for the Islander series that they were.
Yeah, he was a pain in the ass against the Islanders. Okay, so let AFP's board, their board for Tanev, let's see. They have Tanev at 2 years, $2.21 million, basically. So, yeah, I do think that I do think that could be a possibility. I'm surprised Peter didn't mention him in the article. I thought Peter was going to mention more defensive additions in that article. So I'm kind of a little disappointed by that. So, but that is Peter's board. We can go back to a lot of these guys and the comments later on when we do a little Q&A. If you guys want to talk about those, then we can always go back to those and talk about some of those contracts. So I know, Mark, you have some other things that we want to get into.
Yeah, we were trying to delay a little bit and get Anthony on for his thoughts on this. But we got to go into a story that came out yesterday because there's the presence of Lou Lamoriello that's complicating the Islanders' GM search. According to Arthur Staple, he said Scott Malkin is interested in keeping Lamoriello on staff beyond June 30th, and this might not make as much sense as it is for a potential GM. Look, I think it's more about using him in an advisor role, not using him more as a president anymore, obviously. And I think when it comes to that, reading the tea leaves on this, look, if you got somebody with Lou Lamoriello's knowledge, use it. This guy has forgotten more about hockey than I'll ever know, and I tend to take pride in what I do know. And it's something to keep an eye on, because you might get some veteran GMs that might not want him around, but a lot of these guys whom Pierre LeBrun mentioned that are interviewing this week, you have Mark Bergevin, Jarmo Kekalainen, Matthew Darche. Matthew Darche would probably, I guess, be the most comfortable with that because he was an assistant GM for a while. Bergevin out in Montreal, I mean, he always had everybody watching over his shoulder. And Kekalainen always had John Davidson over him. Maybe it just didn't work for Kenny Holland. That's just one way it could be. And Kenny Holland, who got the job with the Los Angeles Kings yesterday. And it's just, you gotta kind of let this all play out and see how it's going to go. Now, Lou kind of had a presence with the Toronto Maple Leafs up until the point when he left and in his final year there, and it didn't affect anything. And Kyle Dubas went on to do the Kyle Dubas things that he was going to do. But this, I think a lot of fans that are frustrated by Lou, it's just more fuel to the fire. I would say with this, Islander fans, don't worry about it because he's not going to be hands-on with this team. It's just going to be as an advisor. There's still some of the rumors that went around about Lou going to Buffalo. If he goes and makes the Buffalo Sabres into an actual organization, let me say it like that, then that's really something. In this case, don't worry about it too much, unless we start hearing more of these statements that that it might not make sense for a potential GM. Look, a lot of these guys, they need to be reined in. You can't give everybody some just complete unwielded power. Look what's going on in Madison Square Garden, because Chris Drury he's got mixed reviews. I'm one of those guys. I have mixed reviews on Chris Drury too. So we're going to see about all that. Let's get some of your comments as I wait for Phil to get back on. Once I'm out, they pull me back in. Love that reference from The Godfather Part 3. Jay, you're also saying the NMC may lose prominence as the cap goes up because GMs no longer need to take the chip because they could offer back AAV and on a shorter term. I think there's always going to be no move clauses. And I think no move clauses really became more important into contracts after what happened with Wade Redden. Wade Redden, who was in the minors, basically making his money for the New York Rangers back in 2011, 2012. And it's, as much as I wasn't a fan of Redden, as much as him being a New York Ranger was, with all due respect to him, a disaster, Redden deserved better. And I think we all could have agreed with that. So, I know. Poor Wade Redden making his millions in the minors, but and I like that, Jay. But again, professional athletes, these are men that have pride. They've reached a level that I will never get to, unless the NHL is suddenly signing 47-year-olds with bad backs. But it's one of those things. It's if I'm a player, it's the other way around, David. If I'm the player, I'm not signing a contract like that without a no move clause. I want to know firmly where I can be, where my family can plant roots for 4 years. After all, I'm right now in a brand new apartment. I've been in here since mid-March. And just in a conversation with my landlord, we were talking. I'm like, yeah, I'm not even thinking about when my move-out day is going to be. I'm committed already for a year and looking forward to longer years after that. But also, who knows? Another state might come calling for me. So we'll figure out that. But yeah, I agree with you on it should be for the best of the best, but also look at where it is right now with Artemi Panarin, who Chris Drury has not been a fan of for years. Years, Chris Drury was not a fan of Artemi Panarin, and he was kind of stuck with him. This year, we might see something different. We're going to talk more about that in the Bar Talk segment. Let's go with some more of these comments while I'm waiting for Phil to get back on. When you make millions and don't live up to the contract, what do you want people? What do people want owners to do? Buy them a car or give them a raise? Well, yeah. Well, the other part is look. It's hard for me to justify sometimes what a player should be doing with their contract, or even what a player should be thinking when their contract ends. Phil went over one of the points that I was going to make when it came to Mikael Granlund. Mikael Granlund, who's let me get back to his stats real quick, guys. These are his stats, and they're projecting him for just under $5 million. He was 66 points. Now, let's just look at last season. That it was last season. They got it right here. With San Jose, 45 points, 52 games. Not a bad production by any means. Everybody would take that and run. But since joining Dallas, and he's been on the line with the other two Finns, Hintz and Rantanen, 7 goals, 14 assists, 21 points. That's just in the regular season. I think it's a goal and 3 assists in the playoffs in 10 games right now. Yes, that is it. And right now, if I'm him, I would try to stay in Dallas because, look, you could sign the deal and whatever happens after that is on you. You could sign the deal like Jacob Trouba did, and your contract is basically worthless within a month. And not to say Jacob Trouba was worthless as a New York Ranger, but on the other hand, if you mean to tell me he was an $8 million defenseman, I have a bridge to sell you. So it's, you look at guys like that, you not only want to get paid, you also want to be where you want to be. You don't want to take the money. You don't want a Bobby Holik who's going to take the money and then just be miserable the rest of the time with the New York Rangers, an example. And when it comes to, say, like the New York Islanders, you want to be able to invest in players that are going to help the team flourish. So, Phil, do you think there's going to be more or less no-move clauses as the salary cap goes up? Oh, you're muted.
Muted, sorry. That could go either way. I don't know. I honestly think this is, a market in which, you're going to see a lot of bigger contracts handed out than ever just because of the cap going up so much. But I don't know about that. That's going to be a tough call. Some of these guys don't really have the ability to get the term. I think the longer tenure, like the players who are going to get more term, those are the ones that'll get the protection that they're looking for. I would be very wary about giving full protection. I mean, to Jay, you talked about before, like, if, you had partial protection on that contract for like the first 3-4 years of it, and then the next 3-4 years are unprotected, then that's good. Yeah, I mean, that's maybe something you could start seeing a little more of. I know that they did that with Kreider and Trouba's deals. The back end of them, didn't have as much protection. It had some, but not all. Obviously, Trouba circumvented his and kind of derailed the Rangers offseason last summer 2024. But, exactly like you knew no movement clause for the first 3-4 and then 5-10 team after, something like that. I don't know.
That's sort of like what baseball used to have. They used to have the 5-10 players.
Yeah, the 5-10 rule was pretty good. But yeah, I honestly think there's going to be a little more of this. I think the Broberg and Holloway offer sheets have kind of opened up people's eyes, especially with St. Louis getting as much as they've gotten out of those two players. So I think you could see a little more of that. I think the Rangers should get Will Cooley under contract as soon as possible to avoid that with him, because he could be a target, especially with a 20-goal, 40-point season. And if he had not cooled off the way that he did from earlier on in the year, that would have been somebody that would have been looking at maybe a Tom Wilson type year, a 30-60 type year, the way that he was going earlier on in the year. So he definitely would have been somebody that would have had that type of interest in the offer sheet market. So.
All right, guys, we're gonna just plow forward right now, and let's get rid of this, get rid of that. Let's go take the DraftKings break and then do some NHL Bar Talk. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. And welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on these NHL topics based on our choice of drink. So confident you're buying around, so have a beer, or, oh, God, I need a shot. Play along down in the comments down below. And my banners weren't clicking for a second, so I guess I had a spot in my Wi-Fi for a second. So anyway,
there it is. There it is. Oh, he got here just in time.
Well, let's see about whether or not there's going to be some hoops today. By the way, speaking about Rangers Central, who joined us for the Rangers wrap-up show, go ahead, take a look at that. That is on. We did it about 2 weeks ago with Rangers Central, Ice Cold Takes podcast, and Statboy Steven that were all on, and Johnny Lazarus came in for an interview. But let's go and stick with that as we talk about the New York Rangers. Chris Kreider, his no movement clause expires. It kicks into a limited no trade clause. I was trying to be concise with the spelling on that. K'Andre Miller is an RFA. Artemi Panarin is entering the final season of the deal he signed back in 2018. Philk, the New York Rangers, Kreider, Panarin, Zibanejad, or Miller, 2 of the 4 will be moved this offseason.
Ooh, this is actually not a layup.
This was brought to you by Mr. Larocco.
I'm going to go beer. I Kreider for sure. And I don't know if anybody saw Larry Brooks' article a few days back. Mutual of mine, Phil Kosher, actually.
We got to get him on at some point.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Phil. Phil's going to come on. He definitely would. I think he would definitely be open to it. But he posted this. It was 5 days ago, and Larry Brooks wrote, and this was the quote that Phil retweeted. He said, "There is a strong sense that the feeling is mutual, and that after 13 years with the organization, Kreider recognizes that the relationship has run its course and that he needs a fresh start." So I think Chris Kreider is gone for sure. Snark Messier, for anybody who follows him on Twitter, actually it's at MYR Fanatic. He actually retweeted an article today from the Hockey Writers. Jesse Corville Lynch wrote that Calgary, Los Angeles, and Anaheim could be 3 potential trade destinations for Artemi Panarin. I I do think that there might be some look into Artemi Panarin. They might look to free up cap space. Keandre Miller is going to be a tough sell for me just because of the lack of left side depth that they have on defense. If they get Gavrikov or maybe Ivan Provorov or Dmitry Orlov, and they get another left side defenseman in there, then maybe I could see Keandre Miller moved for forward help at that point for like a young type of forward in a similar situation. Or maybe he's moved to Buffalo in a deal for JJ Peterka, something like that as part of a package for Peterka. Panarin, it's a possibility, but again, you're going to need offensive production to replace him. So it's going to be tough to replace that. But Kreider and Zibanejad would be two guys that I would look at. And with the way that their attitudes were this season, I mean, after that Chris Kreider trade happens, again, does that make Mika Zibanejad more amenable to open, to waiving his no movement clause? And then at that point, who takes him? I mean, and do you have to retain any salary to make that deal work? Cap's going up, but what do teams view him as? Do they view him as a center? Do they view him as a right winger? I mean, these are a lot of questions that have to be answered. It's tough to do it. The other thing that I will say is that Mike Sullivan comes in.
Yep.
And you got to remember, Mike Sullivan has a relationship with Chris Kreider. Coached him in New York. Coached him at the Four Nations. He put Chris Kreider in the championship game over Kyle Connor. So that means there's probably a decent relationship between the two of them. Do they give Kreider a chance to rebound? And if it still doesn't work, then do they move him by the deadline? So, I mean, I don't know. I got to say beer right now, but there is a possibility that two of them I think could be moved. I think there's less of a chance on Panarin and Keandre Miller.
Phil, let me start by saying this. Mike Sullivan does have the relationship with Chris Kreider. He also didn't play him at all, basically, in the championship game. The other thing to mention with Mike Sullivan pertaining to the New York Rangers is the last time the Rangers developed quality defensemen, and several of them, not just one, not just two, there was a lot that went through. Dan Girardi, Ryan McDonough, Michael Sauer, who was becoming one. Mark Stahl, even with his pedigree, he improved under who? Mike Sullivan when he was the assistant coach. Michael Del Zotto had a couple good seasons where you're like, hey, this kid might become something. And then they moved on from him. So I think Sullivan could coach up the defense, and that's one reason why I think Keandre Miller is the one guy I'll point to, as well as the lack of depth and also the lack of intriguing options. I think Keandre Miller is going to stay. Since it's two, I'm going to go round on this one, Phil. I have to, because Chris Kreider, I think, I've been saying this all along, even with a higher salary cap, everybody wants to talk about the cap going up. Cap didn't go to infinity. You're going to have to still pay Chris Kreider $6.5 million to play him on power play one over Alexei Lafreniere, who's making 7.7 next year. That's madness. That is absolute madness. You have to move on from him. And you got to do it soon, because we've seen guys of Kreider's size and age just start fading off. And as much as you might like Chris Kreider, as much as you love him, because I'll be honest, I'm a fan of Chris Kreider. Adam Graves was traded. Brian Leach was traded. This is stuff that happened. So it's gonna happen, I believe, and it's gonna happen. I'm gonna say Kreider, and I'll go as far as say Panarin. I think Drury is gonna try to work it so Panarin goes this year. Anthony. First off, Anthony, thanks for joining us. We're going to get right to some more Islander stuff in a second. But Anthony, Kreider, Panarin, Zibanejad, Miller, two of the four will be moved this season.
So first, did you guys go round, beer, shot?
I went beer.
I went round.
All right, I'm going beer. I think Kreider is definitely gone. And I'm gonna go off the board. I don't maybe want to call off the board, but I'm gonna say Miller would be the other one. Zibanejad, Panarin, they have those pesky no movement clauses. I still think that's not really a huge issue. I think if you convey to someone, which I've always said, you're not in your plans anymore and you make them feel unwanted, that human nature, they may want to go, but they are big salaries. I think Kreider and Zibanejad are the easier of the two moves. So that's why I picked them. But even if it's not them and it's another combination, I do think two will likely get moved. I'm just not going to go all the way to round, so I'll stick with a beer there.
I'll tell you what. After hearing Mika Zibanejad's lines, Phil, I wouldn't want him on my team. The way he was talking, I mean, I'm trying to think of something depressing to say, but instead I'll just move on from him, which is what the New York Rangers should do. Anyway, Anthony, perfect timing, because now we have you on not only for your answer right there, but as we talked about, Pierre LeBrun, the Islanders are interviewing Mark Bergevin, Jarmo Kekalainen, and Matthew Darche this week. Ken Holland was just hired by the LA Kings. Anthony, the Islanders ownership will influence the new Islanders GM, regardless of who it is, to select James Hagens number one.
I'm going to go beer. I say that because if they take him, it's like a PR dream. Kid from Long Island, grew up an Islander fan. They'll sell a ton of jerseys. They'll sell a ton of tickets. I just think they'll make a lot of money off of it. Question is taking him first overall, good for business, being that you can get him lower if you trade it down. I just think ownership probably wants the Islanders to take him just because of that marketing ploy they can do. The diehard fans that want Schaefer, Misa, the guy who really dive into prospects, they may not be happy, but the casual, large part of the fan base would probably be thrilled to see it. There's some speculation on how true it is that Ledecky wants them to take Hagens just because, again, it's the feel good story. But I'm going to say beer. I think ownership would love to see it. Question is, how much do they really want that scenario to play out so they can make a boatload of money? But that's just my take on it.
Phil?
If they do this, I'm sorry. Yeah, I get the PR perspective, but you have a franchise to run. This is a business. This isn't the Hallmark Channel where it's going to be a feel-good story. Like, what are you doing? This isn't Lifetime where everybody comes away with a happy ending at the end of the damn movie. Like, what are we doing here? I'm sorry. I just, if you ask me, you don't want to go defense and you're scared by Schaefer's injury history, take Misa at one and call it a day. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. If you really want to trade down and you want to get this guy, okay, fine. Get what you can get for it. But if you take James Hagens first overall after this year, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I don't believe he's the best player in this draft anymore. And it's scary just because I thought he was going to go first overall before this year and earlier on this year. But, I mean, how do you look? Listen, I get the perspective on Michael Misa. I get why people are scared because not this year, but last year, you know who led their team in scoring? Zane Parekh. He had 33 goals and 99 points. He had 33 goals and over 100 points this year for Saginaw. So, yeah, there might be some people who might think that, Misa's scoring increase is because of Parech's dominance. I think Frondell is a great player. I don't know if he's going to be better than Misa. I think it's close. I'm not going to go prospect diving right now, but just to get back to the actual point, beer just because I don't know. But if this does happen and they take Hagens first overall, oh man, a lot of GMs are going to be very happy because that's going to knock a few guys down where they shouldn't be. So you don't think San Jose is drooling at the idea of being able to take Matthew Schaefer at 2 if the Islanders take James Hagens at 1? That's stupid. Make them pay for it. How do you not take advantage of that?
I'm going to name 2 players in 1 second, and also remind everybody about the story that I told last week about Doug Wickenheiser being taken number 1 overall by the Montreal Canadiens instead of hometown boy Dennis Savard, who went on to have a pretty good career and also win a Stanley Cup with the Montreal Canadiens. But I'm going to go the other way with this conversation. First things first, the happiest person in this draft is going to be the actor who played Jar Jar Binks, because now he can be recorded saying, Misa going to score a goal as soon as Michael Misa is drafted. So,
Anthony's face.
Yeah, I know. The amount of disgust. So let me just say this. First off, and as a GM that would be interviewed, if they asked me, we want to take James Hagens number 1 overall, we want you to do this as a GM. As a GM, I would say to them, guys, I am running this organization for you. Just let me do it. And also, let me do what's right. I will get the player that you want. He might not be number 1 overall. All 3 of us advocated in trading back to get Hagens, turning this first overall draft pick into more. So first, my answer is shot on this because
he probably heard you doing the Jar Jar Binks. He's like, what is going on right now?
Oh my. Well, yeah. Well, it could be worse. It could get the more.
Oh my God. What was that? Which was worse than Mark the Jason Tatum injury?
Or if you want Cabrera's injury last night for the Yankees.
Osvaldo Cabrera injury was gruesome.
Yeah.
That was like Moises Alou type stuff. I was watching that last night.
Yeah, those were awful times. But
I just want to not saying not sorry to cut you off, Mark, but not saying
it's all right. I'll get back
because a lot of people are kind of drafting James Hagens isn't screwing up a franchise. The guy may have dropped, but he's still going to be a very good player. I think a lot of people are piling on this narrative on Hagens all of a sudden that he's some bad pick or whatever team drafts him, whether it's the Islanders at 2 or the Predators at 5, the Utah at 4. You're going to get a player that has a ceiling of a first line center. Whether he gets that, I'm not sure, but he's going to be a good player. So I think people in general need to kind of stop, getting on Hagens just because Misa and Schaefer had good years. So the Islanders franchise isn't being messed up if they draft James Hagens. 32 teams would love to have him. So I just wanted the button because this narrative, people on Twitter, hey, you can't take Hagens, you can't take Hagens. I think it's being overstated. It's being ragged on a little too much now.
You just can't do it at 1. I'm sorry. You have the opportunity to get extra assets to take the guy to trade down.
No, I agree with you, but just I think there's some people in general that are making it seem like he's this wild card, lesser player now, whereas he's still going to be I think a fantastic player.
And Anthony, I think first off, by the way, you're right, because all of a sudden now everybody's an expert. We know how the NHL scouting combine went. We know how the interviews went. Players can drop and even rise at different points.
Yeah.
We were there last year in the Sphere for Beckett Seneca. Justin Biggs. But Anthony, there's and first off, I talk about the hometown guy getting passed on. Here's what we just mentioned Jonathan Drouin before you got on. Jonathan Drouin was traded back to Montreal. That was the hometown guy going home, and yet that didn't work out either as everybody planned. So you never know about these things. And let me also say this one, guys. Here's the possibility every New York fan should remember. there was this player that was in New York sports for the last 20 years. His name was Eli Manning. What team drafted him? San Diego Chargers. They drafted him. Then they ended up trading with the New York Giants and getting their guy, which was Phillip Rivers. And they got more draft picks that they turned into, I think it was Nate Keating and Sean Merriman, or some of the draft picks that they used.
Sean Merriman was one of the players that came out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to get into the steroid stuff with Sean Merriman, but they got a pretty good player out of it.
Well, he also got Tila Tequila, so I guess he lost it out in the end. But
Tila Tequila.
Tila Tequila.
Definitely did not expect to hear Tila Tequila.
All right, Jesus. Sean Merriman did not win in that, so I don't remember that one. Anyway, but so the New York Islanders can still go in this draft. Let's say they draft Schaefer. We talked about different plans. They trade back into the top 5, or they could either take the player that the teams below them want, and then work trades out after that. I know they got draft boards, but the other guys got assets that are expendable. And Yar Bing, so wow. He's going to go number 1 in the draft.
Oh, God.
And guys, get ready, because that's going to be around for the next 15 years.
No.
So, Phil, let's go right into the games tonight.
Help us, Obi-Wan. Help us, Obi-Wan.
Let's go into the games that are being played tonight. The Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing
tonight.
Game 5.
No, they don't.
That's
Yeah,
not
they're
tonight.
not tonight.
Oh, it's not tonight. It's tomorrow night. All right, sorry.
Tomorrow night.
My bad.
Yeah, there's only one game. There's only one.
You know what? I keep
tonight.
thinking today is Wednesday because we usually do the show on Wednesday. So, what is the one game tonight, by the way?
The Jets and the Stars.
Oh, okay. Why wouldn't they have 2 on tonight?
The Jets and the Stars.
Extra travel day because they're going from Florida to Toronto.
They don't need extra travel days. Like, stop with the extra travel days. You're gonna end up having games in July. I'm so mad. So
Live to the meat locker, live from Otokonga, live on Tatooine.
The force has been strong with us with a lot of these
The force
references.
is not strong with Mark Williams.
All right, so guys, the home team has won all 4 games in this series, but if you listen to the Toronto Maple Leaf fans, they're kind of not feeling that great right now. Philk, Florida is in full control of this series.
I don't know if they're in full control. I'll say beer. It seems like, there's something to be said there. If I'm Toronto, I definitely wanted to win, that 3rd game and not have that come back to be a 2-2 series. It's 2-2 now, and now they're going back to Toronto, and the home team has won all the games in this series. So I don't know. Mark definitely does not have a high midichlorian count. Definitely do not.
Maybe I am Darth Jar Jar.
Darth Jar Jar. That's
Darth
giving
Jar
him
Jar.
too much credit. This is the word we have been looking for. Mark Sidious. Oh man, this is great. This is amazing. Just keep these coming because they're absolutely hilarious. But I'm gonna say beer just because the home team has won all 4 games in this series, and Toronto's looked a lot better at home than they have on the road. I think it might come down to that last change, getting the matchups that they want and keeping the players away from certain players and so on. Anthony Stolarz not being in has definitely not helped them. But yes, I think that Florida has the momentum right now, but full control or in control, kind of tough to say. So I'm gonna stick with a beer here.
Anthony, is Florida in control of this series?
I wouldn't say so just because the home team has won both games and the next 2 out of the 3 games would be in Toronto. So Florida has momentum. They tied the series after being down 2 games to none, but the fact that Toronto is going to play the next 2 of the 3 at home, I would say that plays well in their favor. So I would say shot, but because Florida has won 2 in a row, I'll say beer. But I don't necessarily think they're in control of the series.
Guys are going around on this, and I'm doing it for 2 reasons. One, the Toronto Maple Leafs struggle heavily in the Auston Matthews era in games 5, 6, and 7. Craig Berube, this is why you were brought here. You were brought here to change that narrative, to toughen these guys up mentally and get them into the 3rd round. Let's see whether or not they could do that. They've never won 3 rounds of playoff series, by the way, in their history. So that's going to be something. But the Maple Leafs need their stars to step up. We talked about this last week when they played, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, when the Senators were starting to come back and they made it into a series. It is time for Auston Matthews. It is time for Mitch Marner. And it is time for all these guys to keep stepping up. I got to hand some credit to Joseph Wall. He's pretty much done the job that Anthony Stolarz was going to do. And I haven't seen any real problems in his game. You can't have it where your top point producer in the series is William Nylander and your second is Max Pacioretty, or Morgan Reilly, I think it is. Nope, those 2 guys got to step up, the ones that are getting paid the big bucks. And I'm a huge Auston Matthews fan. I have no problem saying that out loud, but you better start earning your money right now. We've been talking about calling out these guys for a while. All of us have. Now it's time for them to get called out. Let's see what you're made of. One guy that you don't have to worry about what he's made of is Miro Heiskanen. He is coming back tonight, Game 4. It is tonight. I actually have that one right. So going right back to you, Mr. LaRocco. Miro Heiskanen coming back will put Dallas over the top against Winnipeg.
You know what? I'm going to say round. I already thought that Dallas was going to win the series without him. I think, him coming back is just going to put that, be icing on the cake. It's the Jets were the best team in the National Hockey League. So it's kind of hard to say definitively they're going to lose, but I just think Dallas is the better team right now. I think Jake Ottinger is playing significantly better than Connor Hellebuck in goal. So yeah, I think Heiskanen coming back, their best defenseman, puck mover. I think that just makes them much more dangerous. And I don't know how Winnipeg kind of counteracts that, but I don't think they're going to go out with a whimper. I don't think they're going to lose 4-1, but I do think Dallas is ultimately going to win the series. And like I said, I thought this without him. With him, it just solidifies it for me.
Phil?
So in my second chance bracket, I had Dallas in 6. And I mean, Heiskanen coming back. Yeah, man. I'm going to go round, but I don't think this is a layup. I see Evan saying get the hoop and Matt saying hoop. I don't think this is hoop material. I don't. I think getting Heiskanen back is definitely going to help, but I think Winnipeg, I don't think they played their best hockey in this series. I think Hellebuck on the road is more of an issue than Heiskanen coming back is. Hellebuck has actually been pretty good at home. It's just on the road, his numbers this postseason have not been very good. So I think it's more so that, and Miro Heiskanen is definitely going to help. No doubt about it. But I just, over the top, I don't know. I think they were winning the series either way, like Anthony said. So I'm going to go round, but I definitely don't think it's a hoop.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I'm actually gonna go shot on this. I don't think it's gonna put him over the top at all. I did have Winnipeg winning the series, but that was because I really took the momentum that they were picking up from the St. Louis win. But I just think if Heiskanen didn't come back, I think Dallas might still win the series anyway. I don't think it's going to be what really puts them over the top. the question is, again, what are you going to get from Connor Hellebuck? We're going to be talking about more about him in a moment. But Hellebuck has got a shutout in the series, played really well in game one. It's also been the Mikko Rantanen show. That's been part of the problem. You're talking about a guy that was in on, I think it was 13 consecutive goals for his team.
He was 15 out of 16, I believe it was.
15 out of 16. He broke Wayne Gretzky's record of doing that. Like Heiskanen is a great player. And he's going to be back with a whole lot of more Finns soon enough. I also wonder if
Atlanta and Dallas.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's unfair to ask it for Heiskanen to put him over the top, considering he's coming back from an injury and a long, long layoff. So I think maybe for the next 3 games, or in this case, maybe they only need 2. Maybe that all he has to do is just go there and just be a steady defenseman. That's all he needs. So I wouldn't say they'll put him over the top, but it's definitely going to help no matter what. So I'll agree with you on that one, Anthony. By the way, reports the NHL is pushing a return to Atlanta for the 3rd time. They were the Atlanta Flames. They were the Atlanta Thrashers. One is in Calgary. One is in Winnipeg now.
I imagine those 2 X's. Is that on purpose? Was that a pun? Is that a pun there?
No, well, I should have actually just said that instead of saying it's a typo. That would have been brilliant, Phil. So that was exactly what I was thinking. All right. Gary Bettman will bring a vote to the Board of Governors to expand to Atlanta this summer. Guys, I'll start this one off. Yeah, he's going to do it. I think we're going to hear Atlanta yet again. I think they have a better plan for it this time. And yeah, and by design. I'm trying to think of the other city that they're going to name in there. If you bring back Atlanta, you got to bring back another one. I think Houston is the natural one. I would love to see Arizona get it again, but they're still a few years away. So I think I said round. I'm gonna stay with round, Mr. LaRocco.
Yeah, I think this is just inevitable. I think it's a round. Chris Johnson's article that he wrote the other day, he said that it's believed that the Atlanta ownership group is going to meet with Bettman after the finals and pitch their completed package of why they deserve an NHL team. And just a speculation over this about a year ago, unless the meeting goes horribly awry, which I doubt it. I think Bettman's going to come out of it with being impressed, and he's going to like everything he hears, and he's going to bring it to a vote for the Board of Governors, and they'll officially go into the expansion process. So I just think it's a formality at this point. So I'm going to say round, but third time's a charm, I guess. We'll see.
Phil?
Hoop. Get the hoop. It's going to happen.
Okay, wow.
It's going to happen. And all the talk that we've heard over the last year and change about this, the hints from Kevin Weeks and everything, they have it in a much better area in Forsyth County, which is, I believe, a suburb, a nice suburb of Atlanta. They're going to have a new arena. They're going to have better and stable ownership. I expect better things out of Atlanta this time around. I know that there are people who have that have qualms about going back to Atlanta because it's failed twice there already. But it fails twice because you don't have stable ownership, you don't have a good arena, and not only that, but you're going to bring them back, and they're going to come back with the expansion drafts that Seattle and Vegas have had.
Yeah.
How much more is that going to help them compared to when Atlanta came back as the Thrashers? Remember what they got out of that? Their best player that they got out of that was an aging Ray Ferraro.
And Donald Audette.
Murphy? Really? I mean, come on. It's no offense to those guys, but they're going to be getting a lot more talent than what they got previously. They're going to be in a better area with a better arena and better ownership with deeper pockets. So, yeah, I think this can work, and it's going to happen whether anyone likes it or not.
Phil, you bring up a great point with that, because I think one thing that we could also say about it is some of the things that happened in Atlanta aren't going to happen again. Don Waddell is not going to lose every single trade that he made, and he lost every trade. Ownership, if you have stable ownership, they're not going to beat each other's throats. Or you have an arena that's actually built for hockey, that would actually really help. The other thing also to get in there, and it has to be mentioned, I'm sorry to say it, is that the Danny Heatley situation won't happen again, which really kind of put that derailed the franchise. That derailed the franchise, Anthony. That derailed the franchise. It put you had the biggest star in that franchise at that time, even over Ilya Kovalchuk. He has to get moved for Marian Hossa, which ends up being a good deal.
Want to be there. Yeah, Mark's onto something there.
And then Marian Hossa's got to get moved. You don't get equal value back for him. And then Ilya Kovalchuk's got to get moved. By the time that anything was left in Atlanta, they were being held together with paper clips of Nick Antropov and I'm trying to think of even who was left there. And then
Finneganov. I mean, like
Finneganov, yeah. Sure, you had Dustin Bufflin that you brought in from the Blackhawks, and you had Evander Kane that was there. But
and Evander Kane got his tracksuit thrown in an ice tub.
Yeah,
he decided not to show up for team meetings.
Like, I mean, there's a lot that's there and it's something that now Atlanta doesn't have to fight against all this. And if they're out where the Braves are, I think that's a little bit more appealing to people in that area. We'll see about that come in the future. Guys, oh, by the way, actually going around real quick, what do you guys think the second city is going to be? Also, let me say this. Arizona is in that same situation too. You give them stable ownership, an actual building built for the arena, and you'll see fans go in there. Phil?
It's going to be Houston. Houston's going to be the other team. They've been talking about it for a while. The Houston Aeros have been they've thrived there in the minor league levels for years. So Houston is a city that is familiar with hockey. It's an established market, not to the NHL level, obviously, but there is a fan base there. And Texas, believe it or not, Texas is a bigger hockey market than anyone could fathom. Anyone. So I think Houston will be the second team that'll come in. Those two teams will be teams 33 and 34, and I think Houston will thrive there.
Anthony?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious Houston's going to be the other team. I mean, there really hasn't been. I mean, there's been some talk Kansas City, maybe down the line. I think they could get a team, but I think for right now, it's definitely going to be Atlanta and Houston. If they come at the same time, that I don't know. Like we do know that Atlanta's ownership group has the meeting probably after the finals. Not sure where things stand with Houston if they want to do them at the same time, but I think Houston's definitely going to get a team at some point. And for those that say Quebec, Hartford, as cool as it would be, I don't see the NHL going back there to those two cities. I think they view them as too small of a market, no viable NHL-sized arena. But yeah, I would look to places like Kansas City or a second team in Toronto before they would go back to Quebec or Hartford.
I think another thing would be would do the Montreal Canadiens want a team going back to Quebec?
I don't like the idea of it either, but
I just don't think it's a good idea. I just think you're going to get overshadowed by a fan base that's torn between Maple Leafs, Sabres, and Red Wings. Then at that point, if you're going into that market, I don't think there's going to be enough of a market for a second team in Toronto. I think the Maple Leafs are too big, and any straggling fans that are not Maple Leafs fans in that area are either Red Wings fans, that kind of just go over the border, or Buffalo Sabres fans, because if you go between Sabres and Leafs games, you see a lot of Leafs fans go to Sabres games, and then when the Maple Leafs were bad and the Sabres were good, the Sabres fans were going to Toronto for games.
Yeah, good point with that.
Portland too. Portland's name has been in the mix as well. but I don't know if I see that in the near future.
I don't know.
20 years ago, I would have thought of that. Not now. Oh, sorry, Phil. I'll be quiet for you.
Oh no, I don't see that anytime soon. The Winterhawks have been there for years in the WHL as part of the CHL, but I just don't see how that works anytime soon. I don't. Hamilton would be the one city that they would probably look at, but again, I don't. It's kind of like bringing in another team in New York when you already have the Rangers, and I'm talking about not like upstate New York. I'm talking like downstate here. When you already have the Rangers and the Islanders, how are you going to have another New York team? That to me, that would be what Hamilton would be like.
I think the NHL is going back to Arizona before it goes back to before it goes to Portland.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's Gary Bettman wants that market. The players actually, again, everybody said the same thing. They loved playing, living in Arizona. They didn't like playing for the Coyotes, and that's the big difference. In that.
Was trash.
Yeah, and they also they always made the wrong decision. They put the stadium in the wrong place. They put it in Glendale. Nobody wanted to go there. Yeah. They played in Tempe where they should have. Yes. And we all know it. Everybody knows this, including
either
the people in Arizona.
Or nothing.
Yeah. And all right, guys, that's the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. Oh, sorry. I got to make one more point. Don't think about Quebec because Montreal's got to okay it, and the city is too small. A lot of problem with some of the Canadian provinces is what's the situation with the Canadian dollar? Because everybody gets paid out in American money. Keep that in mind as well. And economics go all over the place. So, guys, thanks for Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk and sticking with us. Let's do some Big Apple Hockey pick'ems. I still have yet to make a graphic for this. Would love to, but let's start with this one, guys. Better third period ending: Cole Perfetti or Reilly Smith?
I'm guessing we're talking about Cole Perfetti's
game tying goal
to send Game 7 into OT.
Yeah, but he didn't win it.
I'm going Perfetti.
Okay, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm going to say Perfetti just because they were about to be eliminated. It was a Game 7. That was outstanding. I mean, don't get me wrong. Reilly Smith scoring with 0.4 seconds left is absurd, but the stakes weren't really as high. So I'll go Perfetti.
I'm actually going to say get the hoop on this one. It's Perfetti because that as much as St. Louis was looking like they were going to win that game, after that moment they lost. I know they didn't win the game on that, but they lost in that game, and it's just I'm sitting there cheering and just absolutely in disbelief, and I was really kind of rooting for Winnipeg to win it in that game, and then you saw Connor Hellebuck really stand up. We'll get to Connor Hellebuck more in a second, but first off, guys, more savage play, the Domi hit on Barkov to end Game 4, or the Nicholas Roy cross check to the face of Trent Frederick in Game 2 that resulted in a major Mr. Baracco.
I guess I'll go with a cross check to the face on Frederick, but don't get me wrong. I mean, at that situation of the game where the game is over, Domi hitting Barkov where he was in relation to the boards, that distance that Barkov was is the most dangerous distance when you get boarded like that. It leaves the more room for serious injury with the way your head goes in. And it just wasn't needed. It was a cheap shot. It was definition of charging. Saw him from far away, made a beeline to him, hit him from behind. I don't hate seeing that in our game. But with that said, just because you're talking about a cross check to the face, I'll say the cross check of Frederick, but did not like the Domi hit on Barkov at all.
Phil, which one do you think is worse?
both of these are pretty scummy plays, but I think there's more potential for an injury when you're using a stick to someone's face. That's just what it comes down to for me. I don't think you should ever be using the stick like that. If you wanted to shove someone with the stick, like kind of like a cross check, but like shove them a little bit, not like a boom, like, but just take it like against them and then shove them, like that's different. But like for me, like if you try to cross check somebody in the face with your stick, that's just gotta. To me, that's terrible, and that's some real intent to injure somebody by doing that. Like that's something where you may need to be like checked mentally because you got to screw loose in your head trying to do something like that. Yeah, like exactly. Shove, not strike. When you strike somebody in the face, it's basically like an assault with a weapon. When you think about it.
And also, there's the whipping motion in the neck. People forget about that one. That's why when
that can be a whiplash situation. That could be a Joe Pavelski situation. Helmet pops off, guy cracks his head open on the ice, something like that. That's bad. I mean, both of these plays are terrible. But for me, it's more extreme with the stick. So I got to go with Nick Wall.
I'm so torn on this, guys, because first off, Wall did get a 5-minute major. The puck was fluttering by them, I think, at one point. But still, Wall just turns and just hits him right in the face. And you're basically doing that in overtime, gift wrapping the Edmonton Oilers the game. The fact that they didn't win it on that power play doesn't mean anything to me. They went down 2-1, I think, a minute after that and won the game. The Domi hit, though, you're talking about somebody that wasn't looking, blindsiding him with that much distance. I'm old enough to remember Travis Roy going head first to the boards, sliding off the hit. Yeah, he lost balance, though. That was the difference in that one. This one, I mean, still, Anthony, you're right. That's so much distance. That's so dangerous, and it's reminiscent of when Ty Domi, Max's dad, elbowed Scott Niedermayer in the face in the closing seconds of the playoff game against the Devils. I think that was 2000. Like, you can't be reckless in doing stuff like that. You can't, and the NHL, they've got to open up the CBA and get rid of this $5,000 fine, and also appoint somebody that's going to actually suspend people in the playoffs besides Mark Scheifele. So that's ridiculous. All right, guys, let's go to this one. Frank Zaravalli brought this up on Daily Faceoff show the other day. He's saying they should sit Connor Hellebuck to start Game 4. Philk, start it off.
I can't see how you sit it. I can't. I get it, but I don't see how you could sit the guy that's probably going to win another Vezina. I don't think Eric Comrie realistically gives you, like, if you had a better backup, maybe at that point, but this would have been like in 2023 if the Rangers would have sat Igor Shesterkin and went with Yaroslav Halak against the Devils. Like, I really don't think you have a better chance of winning with Eric Comrie in that. As much as Connor Hellebuck has had his troubles in the playoffs, I think you're literally handing the game in the series to Dallas at that point. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I have to agree with that one. Anthony, I'll get to my thoughts on that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, this is silly. It's you start him. I mean, if this was a Bar Talk, you get the hoop. Like, it'd be different, listen. If they were down 3-0, and let's say it was like a Rangers Islanders 94 type series where each game was 6-1, 5-1, 5-0, like, then yeah, maybe at that point you go with Eric Comrie because it's like, okay, we're down 3-0, we've gotten shelled. Let's just try to catch lightning in a bottle. Here you're down 2-1. Yeah, Hellebuck hasn't played that good, but you have a really good team in front of him. He's going to win another Vezina trophy, despite how he plays in the playoffs, just as, in entirety, he's still, for my money, the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. Like, no, I'm not going to sit him in a 2-1 series at this point. It's absolutely start.
Yeah, hands down, you're right about that one, both of you guys. Who's the best player on the Jets that gives them the best chance of winning? It's Connor Hellebuyck. And then when you build around the goaltender, you have to have the goaltender play well. And I know his argument is in 3 times in the regular season, he led in the first shot of the game. And 4 times in the playoffs, he led in the first shot of the game. I don't care. Some of that was not on him. The first shot was definitely not on him in the game 7 where Jordan Kyrou had an open net because nobody decided to pick him up. But although Hellebuyck did flop like a fish before that. No, this one, it's you got to play him. You got to ride Connor Hellebuyck. If you sit him, it's what happens when you're built around the goalie. You have to play your goalie. Anthony, which player would you want on your team right now? Mikko Rantanen or William Nylander?
I'm going to go Mikko Rantanen. Nylander's been fantastic too, but, you're saying right now, right now, Rantanen's on a heater of all heaters. Yeah, I'd go with the guy that's just, scorching hot. So you can't pick wrong, whichever one you choose, but for me, I definitely go Rantanen.
Phil?
I got to go with the Moose over Big Willie style here. I just think that Mikko has just been so good. 15 out of 16 goals that he was in on and got a point on. If Dallas wins, he's probably getting the Conn Smythe. He's got to be the favorite right now. He's leading the NHL in goals and points in the postseason. So he's just having a run. And this is a guy that could probably, if they get to the finals and they win, this is a guy that could have a 30, maybe even a 40-point run the way that he's going right now. So for me, it's Rantanen, but to tell you right now, for all the stuff that's gone on with the Toronto Maple Leafs, William Nylander is literally like Hercules trying to lift up the pillars to stop it from falling on everyone right now, because that guy is doing everything he can. And Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and John Tavares, they need to start taking notes from that guy, because that guy is going out there. He's fighting for every puck. He's trying to win every 50-50 battle. I don't know what it is, but they need to raise their game to the level that he's playing at right now or somewhere close to it. Otherwise, they're going to lose that series against Florida.
Yeah, I love me some Mikko Rantanen. I made no secret on that one.
Nylander is doing, the rest of the team is not.
Yes, I agree with you on that one.
Make no mistake there, my friend. Make no mistake.
And I'll tell you what, as great as Mikko Rantanen played, as much as I praised him, William Nylander is forcing this conversation, and all credit to him on that. He has done a great job this postseason for the Maple Leafs. He has been the Maple Leafs' best player, and I gotta hand it to him. It's still Rantanen, but Rantanen's playing on a level no one's at right now. Guys, assuming that they win Game 5, how many conference finals games will the Carolina Hurricanes win? Or sorry, let me change it to what I actually wrote down. Phil, will the Carolina Hurricanes win a conference finals game?
Will they will?
If they get Florida, I'm going to say no.
I saw that, Mark.
No. Will they win a conference finals game?
If they get the Florida Panthers, I'm saying no. If they get Toronto, yes. So I know I can't really say that, but overall, since it's a yes or no, I'll say yes.
Anthony, well, one less will in that sentence now.
Yeah, I'll say they'd win a game. I think they would. I think they would fare well against Toronto, and if they play Florida, yeah, I mean, I think Florida will beat them, but I think Carolina would at least be able to squeak out a win against them. They're a good team. They're not, it's not like they're this fairy tale ace-seeded team that had gone all the way. They're a very good team. If they get there, they'll find a way to get a win.
It is insane to think that the New York Rangers, New York Islanders, and then the New Jersey Devils have all won conference finals games since the last time the Carolina Hurricanes won. And the Carolina Hurricanes have been there 4 times. That's nuts to even think about as well. Yeah, they do. Come on. They can't get swept yet again. So I'm going to have to go with a yes. And Anthony, we'll go right back to you. Grade the 2025 playoffs so far.
I'm going to go A. I mean, these playoffs have been pure cinema. I mean, with all these comebacks and last-second heroics, and a lot of fights, and not fights in general one-on-one, but just a lot of battles and physical play, hits, questionable calls. I think it has it all. So yeah, for me, it's definitely an A.
Phil?
B. Edmonton and LA again for the umpteenth year in a row. I like the Dallas and Colorado series. That was a lot of fun. The second round so far really hasn't been all that entertaining for me. I mean, Edmonton and Vegas has been a fun series. Dallas and Winnipeg is kind of going as I anticipated. St. Louis and Winnipeg was a very exciting series. That, you looked like Winnipeg was going to blow it again, and Hellebuck was going to, take a lot of, crap for not being able to get his team out of the first round. But then that was, that ended up changing with Cole Perfetti. The East kind of so far has been meh. I mean, Florida and Tampa was not the series I wanted. I'm not even just the result, but 5 games. I thought that was going to be like a 7-game, slobber knocker, Jim Ross style. The Capitals over Montreal. Yeah, that's exactly the way I predicted it. And that just really wasn't much of a series. But now the Capitals, the PDO Kings, are being exposed because they're just not that good of a team. I think the East is just, yeah. I mean, the East has been kind of like I would say like a C-. I don't even know if there's that good. Yeah, just the Caps and the Canes are just that's a terrible series. Just boring. A lot of boring hockey. There have been some moments that have been cool. The lack of crazy long overtime games kind of sucks. There's been no real legitimate goaltending duels. You know what? I'm gonna drop this. I'm gonna go C+. Just not the playoffs that I've wanted so far.
Yeah, talking to you just made this drop for me so much more because, again, the East has been meh. The West has been fun. The West has been great. That you had at one point every series in the East went 3-1, and every series in the West went 2-2. And that was just insane to even think about. Then you have, obviously, Cole Perfetti and some of the stuff in the Vegas series. I still think the Kings, LA, the Kings and Edmonton series was a good one.
That was good.
Yeah, I gotta go with a B+. It's still an amazing playoff run, and they've proved you have to wait the quality of games. Perfetti and Reilly Smith and some overtime winners, but we haven't had a crazy overtime. And the East has kind of been boring, especially that Washington series. So that's it on that. All right, guys, that is all, as I just did say, for the for the pick'ems. Let's do a couple blind rankings. Anthony, which one do you want? I got 2025 playoff performers or players that will get the blame from their fan base. Even though we did something similar to this 2 weeks ago.
They're players that get the blame for their fan base.
All right. Here we go. Let's blind rank this one. And we'll start with Mitch Marner.
4.
Stuart Skinner.
2.
Freddie Anderson.
5.
This one isn't a player. I used a coach instead, Pete DeBoer.
5. I used 5, 4, and 3, right?
Yeah. You said Stuart Skinner was, I think, 2, you said. So
2? Oh, sorry.
301. 301 is what's left.
3.
So number 1 is the last guy, Connor McDavid. So that's about as much as I could troll you ever. So it's
yeah.
All right. Phil, 2025 playoff performers.
Okay.
All right. Carter Verhaeghe.
We're doing 5, right?
We're doing 5.
Three.
Leon Draisaitl.
Oh, I hate you. I know he's like 4th in scoring. Gonna have to say 2.
Shane Gostisbehere.
5.
William Karlsson.
Gotta be 4.
And number 1 is available for Matthew Nyes.
Has to be 1 then.
Yeah. Matthew Nyes has had a great playoff run. Anthony, I know you expected me to say Austin Matthews was there, but I couldn't. I just didn't have the heart for 2 Leafs to throw in there.
And what?
You probably expected me to say Austin Matthews and the players who would get the blame if their teams lose. But
is Austin Matthews on your bowl list?
No, he's not. No, but I'll tell you what, PLD, the way he's been this year, I gotta give him credit. I'd be taking him off that list, baby.
Is he your number 1 of all time?
PLD, no, there's other guys I don't want on my team, and I just never want them on my team, or I don't want them on my team ever again. Like,
I got a blind ranking for you.
Oh boy.
Okay.
All right. Let me get.
Yeah, I mean the Oilers have definitely been a team that's been fun to watch in the playoffs. I hated seeing LA for the 4th year in a row, even though I liked the comeback. The comeback was great in that series, and the way that they turned that series around, especially with that challenge and how that series went from there after that. But do I really need LA and Edmonton for 4 years in a row?
No, but it would have been.
That needs to change.
It would have been more fun if LA finally got their revenge. Instead, LA decided to trip over themselves like they have the last.
I don't ever want to see LA win. I don't ever want to see LA win, especially after 2014. Fuck that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'll just say that blatantly because I don't care. But
well, your fandom comes in.
Yeah, that's just whatever.
Yeah.
But I will say this, like the same matchup 4 years in a row and getting some of the same matchups kind of like across the board every year is getting tiring. Change this format. It sucks.
See, that's where I agree with you on. I got to get a different format to get it in there. I mean, if I still stand by the division format. All right, Anthony, I'm ready for you to kill me.
All right. Top 5 NHL players with the first name Connor.
Oh.
You ready?
Oh, wow. All right. Anthony, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Connor McMichael.
Right now, I'd put him at 4.
4? Okay.
Yeah.
Connor Sherry.
We're saying right now or the course of their careers?
Just in general, yeah.
All right, I'll put Connor Sherry at 5.
Wait, so that's a right now or is that career?
Just in general. So it's
Career
everything.
players that name Connor
It's career
based on there.
Yeah.
So Connor Clifton. Now you wish you had 5 open. Now
I wish I had 5 open. I'd move Connor Sherry back up. See, you know what? You're not going to give me McDavid. I already know this.
You might. Maybe I might.
I'm gonna go Connor Clifton at 3.
3. Yeah, you might have Connor Bedard coming your way. Connor Hellebuck. You'll see.
Yeah.
Connor Ingram.
I'm gonna go Connor Ingram at 1 because he had a pretty good season, and it was last year mostly, but he was injury plagued this year, so I'll put him at 1 because I have a feeling you're not gonna have for me a superstar Connor.
Connor Zary.
Oh yeah, no, I feel comfortable with Connor's area too.
Yeah.
I think Connor's area is a good one. I might want to flip Connor Sherry and number 3. I forgot who that was. Connor Clifton.
Connor Clifton.
Yeah, I'd flip those two. I'd feel comfortable with that list.
I bet if you truly saw the troll coming, you would have put Connor McMichael at number 1 and given me a taste of my own medicine.
See, but you know what? I know you, Anthony. You're going to change it on the fly. You'll throw in McDavid as soon as I locked up that number 1. So I have to have it in there.
Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, Anthony is the worst with this because he literally try to put you in the worst position possible.
Actually, and Anthony, I think you came up with a great idea for a top 10 list. The best Connors in the NHL. I think, and because not only do you include McDavid, Bedard, Hellebuck. Look at Hellebuck's teammate, Kyle Connor.
All right, we're gonna have to throw some parameters in there. Is this a first name Connor? Because
loophole.
No, I think that's
Connor.
Phil. I think that's a great idea for a list. You guys tell me what you think down in the comments.
It's got to be first name Connors. No last name. It's first name Connors only.
But that's the best part. You get to use the cheat for Kyle Connor.
Wait, hold on. Is this actually true?
Okay, hold on.
Mean, I know.
If that's true, this is big news.
I know Donald Trump when Rose passed, he said it was a shame that he should be in the Hall of Fame and all this stuff. So yeah, it is. Jeff Passan.
It is. All right. Wow.
Wow.
Pete Rose, Shoeless, Joe Jackson, and other deceased players from its permanently ineligible list.
Wow. Oh my God.
All right.
Wow. It happened. I knew it
All
would
right.
happen post-mortem, but you know what? Good. Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose better get in on the first friggin' ballot then. The first ballot that comes up, you better get the fuck in.
Obviously, these guys are both in. Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, absolute Hall of Famer for that. For the numbers he put up in that era were unbelievable.
And he hit the only home run in that Black Sox series.
I know it was just typo, but I think it's funny. It says Shoeless. Shoeless.
Yeah, he corrected it afterwards.
I was actually I was about to actually mention that too, Anthony.
Great, yeah.
Okay,
Correct, yeah.
first off, guys, let's stay with this for a second because I got to say this. I'm actually pretty angry about this on two levels. One, why'd you wait for Rose to die in order for this to happen?
Yeah.
That is a problem I have with this because if you were going to do this months after he passed, then what was the point? What was the point? It's just, and again, I've been all for, if you're gonna put Rose in, you better put in Jackson, and you better exonerate some of those guys. And if somebody hasn't seen the movie 8 Men Out, great movie, 88, I believe it was, might be 89. I think it was 88. I think it was the summer of my 5th grade. So 88 to going into 89. Anyway, but Jonathan Sayles directed it. John Cusack, Charlie Sheen had a bit part in it. That's to let you know how good of the cast was. Charlie Sheen had a bit part. David Strathairn, Michael Rooker, Christopher Lloyd was in it. That was an incredible, incredible movie. And D.B. Sweeney does a great job as Shoeless Joe Jackson, depicting him kind of as the way he was back then. The Ray Liotta version of Shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams was more like somebody that had plenty of time in their life to reflect back on what happened with that. Okay, so let's get, and yeah, by the way, Rich, you're right about this. So it was the same way when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kept the Ramones out until Joey Ramone died, which, by the way, if you charge her, they will come. Which, by the way, I still don't know whether or not Alice Cooper's in. I'd have to check. I have to check on that. All right, so that's for starters. One thing I've been adamant about this entire time is that, and yes, there was little evidence of Shoeless Joe Jackson ever being in on it. One thing I've been adamant on is we don't know the full story with Pete Rose. And everybody can doubt it that he never bet against this team. And I've always been saying this, if you guys have been watching the show for years with me, I still think betting on your team is worse. Because then you're asking extraordinary effort out of your players, especially when you're the manager. We've all been fantasy football managers. We've all been guys that are like, hey, come on, man. Come on, Calvin Johnson. I need 5 receptions of 50 yards and a touchdown. You got to do this for me. Now imagine being the manager of that team. And I'm going to expand my box real quick. So when these guys come back, I'll just throw them in. You now imagine being the manager of that team. You got a pitcher who's either a reliever that's pitched 3, maybe 4 days in a row. His arm's a little bit sore. Maybe a starter just doesn't have it. And maybe he's feeling a little bit injured. Pete Rose stretching these type of players. As a player, look, Pete Rose obviously tried his hardest. But what if I told you we find out he had money on the All-Star game that year, and he's the one that hurt Ray Fosse, and that's the reason why he did it? Your opinion changes. The fact that we don't know all the story. Now, let's just go with that. Let's get away from that. He's in. Now he's in. Now he's going to be in. Oh, yeah, Mark, you want to bet? I like that. And by the way, the ending of 8 Men Out, amazing. And a perfect homage done by Married with Children just, I think, 2 years later. But no, David, no, it's not worse when you bet against your team. Betting against your team is going against the integrity of the game. This betting on your team, you could potentially jeopardize your players. Like, what if Craig Berube bets on the Maple Leafs tomorrow night? Austin Matthews takes a slap shot off the knee. He's barely holding on, and He's on the ice with a bruised leg, just trying to play because you can't rest him because you got money on the game. This is the reason why managers manage, coaches coach. Baseball is called managers. You're managing every game. And the other thing I've always said about this is, do you think he bet 162 times this season on the Cincinnati Reds? Because as soon as he doesn't, he's sending out a red flag to everybody. Don't bet on my team today. So, look, should Pete Rose be in? Some way, shape, or form, yes. You're going to have to address this. And you have to address this because it's going back on the rule that Judge Landis set in baseball in the 1918 season. You can't bet on baseball. And if you're talking about throwing games, that's out too. So is it murky? Let's all get the stats out. Let's all get everything else out. If you're doing this with DraftKings and FanDuel and now that sports betting is legal everywhere, yeah, it gets murky. Don't bet on baseball. Only thing we're asking you to do. And as David's saying, worst to bet against, manager or the coach cannot start or their best players against a good team, almost guaranteeing gambling win. Yeah, but also you can't guarantee that either. What happens if you send out a rookie pitcher and he pitches a perfect game or a no-hitter, which I think that's happened once in Major League history. Somebody debuted with a no-hitter. But you never know what could happen. Or we'll go into the hockey analogy. I throw in a rookie in net and the kid shuts down the other team. Sometimes that can happen. Now, that's just saying that can happen. First up, by the way, if that's the case, you're cheating the fans. We're paying big money to go best on best. Don't give me a no-name guy just because you have a couple of dollars on the game. And granted, Rose didn't make the money that managers these days did. Perhaps if he did, he would never have bet on baseball. That's a possibility too. And David, I agree with you. Those are small odds, but this is a situation you have to protect against the small odds. If you start letting people in, if you start letting people get away with this stuff, then it expands. As David said right here, you can put an account to win. All right, yeah. You can put an accountant to win the game against the team he's rooting for. Like, that's what happened with David Ayers. So, yeah. They lost to a Zamboni driver. It's stuff like that. That's why, right. But again, he was a gambling junkie that got involved with people. I would not. And Jay, we're going to get to that. I'm just waiting for the rest of the guys to get back here. I think he asked about the spending spree. Likely off-season moves. Wait. Oh, yeah, that's we'll get to that in a second. I think so. I think I got yours that are right there. All right, that's what you were trying to say. Okay, good. So I'll remove the stars on that one. Yeah, he was definitely a Zamboni driver, but he might have been an accountant in his spare time. Phil, David Ayers, do you remember what his occupation was?
I think he was an equipment manager, if I remember correctly. Scott Foster was the accountant.
Yeah.
I think.
But still, by the way, that happened a lot.
David Ayers was the Zamboni driver, actually.
He was a Zamboni driver. Yeah. But again, yeah, that happens a lot, though. You get these guys that they come in, and granted, a lot of these NHL coaches do the classy thing. If they're winning that game and they got the emergency goalie in there, they put him in at the last second, just so that way he could say he was there and he was in an NHL game. So as far as I stand on Rose, just don't bet on the game. That's all you had to do. Just stay away from betting on the game. He could have bet on anything else. And Just why did it have to be baseball? As far as Pete Rose goes, yeah. By the way, I don't want to hear about compiling because he was the ultimate compiler. But yeah, he is in the Hall of Fame in some aspect. I was just there this year. He just wasn't enshrined. They have to put something on his plaque, as well as Shoeless Joe Jackson, to acknowledge that he's part of these scandals. And the only thing and again, Phil, my take on this is Pete Rose, if you're going to do this, why are you doing it now as opposed to, say, a year ago? Like, now I'm actually angry for Pete Rose.
Yeah, I mean, I get it and I agree. Just, I've been saying for years that this was probably going to happen, and then, yeah, it ends up happening.
I used to make the joke, what's going to happen first? Well, first off, you know who banned him from baseball, right?
No, don't remember the commissioner's name at that point.
His National League commissioner, it was Bart Giamatti, whose son is named Paul Giamatti. So I used to argue what's going to happen first? Paul Giamatti wins an Oscar or Pete Rose gets in the Hall of Fame. So now Paul Giamatti's got to find a great role for him. And Paul Giamatti, by the way, great actor. Can't say enough for him. Let's go to some of these other questions. J.E., do you think that we'll see more trades before or after the draft? I'll say before, Phil. Usually they're trying to position.
I think after is, I mean, sometimes it could go both ways. I think you're probably going to see a little more after, just because I think certain teams they're going to kind of just get their draft out of the way, and you know what they might do might have something to do with the way that they draft. Some other teams might not. I just think that there's more room in the offseason afterwards. I think free agency is probably the biggest thing. It's what happens for what teams on day 1, day 2, day 3 of free agency, especially that first free agent frenzy day. I mean, that'll kind of build up the trade market a little more, and that'll give the trade options more exposure and spotlight.
Yeah, I think it's also going to be beforehand because that way teams know what they're working for. I mean, if you want to even adjust this, JE, to say July 1st, that would actually be the best way to go about that, because the teams that don't make trades before the draft and even after the draft, they'll do some more to get rid of cap and get rid of players that they might lose their rights to, and like send them over. Think about like Jake Gensel, who he got traded to Tampa Bay so they could sign him to a big deal. Dominic is asking this one, Phil. Do you guys know who will replace Joe Micheletti?
I don't know. I mean, are you going to bring in Dave Maloney there?
I would bring in Dave Maloney right now. As much as I love him on the radio, Dave Maloney, I'd bring him in. I wish I could bring in Dave Maloney from 1995, because it's amazing to me looking at Dave Maloney. In my opinion, Phil, I look at him in 20 years ago being the energetic hockey analyst that was just all over the place on NHL on Fox. Mm-hmm. And now I look at him as like the wise grandfather telling me about the games. And I mean, he's still the same guy. But it's just now it's almost like I could see Dave Maloney really being just a steadying guy. I love his. Now people are gonna talk about it, Phil. Dave Maloney's a homer, which Johnny Lazarus has said your guys on your local shows broadcast, they should be homers. But are we gonna have moments like when he stepped on some guys' calls because of just the enthusiasm? Does that make him better for radio? I don't know. I love Dave Maloney. I don't think Brian Boyle's ready for it yet, and I kind of like Ryan Callahan for that position.
I don't know. Callahan's been, doing games with different networks. Yeah, I like Boyle in studio, and even between the benches, he wasn't bad in his couple opportunities he got this season. But I don't know if he's ready for a color commentary guy yet. I think Valaket, just because he has the the analytics firm to work with. I don't know if he's going to be a color commentary guy, because that's going to take him all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I could see Maloney. I could definitely see that. I'm not really sure. Not 110% sure right now.
And again, you get guys that they're good in studio or great in studio. Like, I think Valaket's amazing in studio. I don't know how Valaket would be on a live broadcast. I would say I like Boyle in studio. Callahan's been good with ESPN. Maybe there's a guy that's off our radar that we're thinking of. Maybe like a Dan Girardi comes back. Who knows? Maybe Sean Avery. Sean Avery could be good in this.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think Sean Avery would be best if you leave him uncensored, unfiltered. I can't see him wanting to do the whole, like, if anybody watched Sean Avery and Shoresy, he was great in that.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that.
Oh man, he's great in that. So I don't think he would be as entertaining. I really don't, because you'd have to censor him quite a bit. You really would.
And the other thing would be, he's entertaining. He's more of the celebrity type.
I don't know if I agree with that.
No, but I meant like he's. I don't know if he's a guy that, because he does the Twitter stuff. His analysis of Sean Avery on Twitter was absolutely hilarious when he critiqued himself against the Atlanta Thrashers. I want to say it was like Brian Leach night or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. He did his own analysis and was like, "What are you doing there, 16? Huh? What are you doing there? How do you not end him? How do you not finish him right there? With the guy skating with the puck behind the net." I saw that. But
yeah,
I don't think I think you'd have to filter him. You'd have to neuter him quite a bit.
And the thing is, could he make a game 35 interesting? It'd be fun for playoffs. It'd be fun for big games.
I mean, would I be opposed to it? No, I just think that you're gonna have to censor him and water him down quite a bit, and I think that's gonna take away from the appeal. That's why I think what he's doing right now is perfect, just because he can just do whatever and say whatever. But I definitely don't see this as like something that's gonna stick.
Eddie Olczyk right now is in Seattle. He's doing his gig with John
Yeah,
Ford.
they don't have a chance at him.
Yeah, they don't have a chance at him. I know everybody's asked this question, and as Phil typed out the comments, Sidney Crosby's never going to leave Pittsburgh. I just don't see it ever happening. No. Even if it's, hey, we'll give you a chance to win another cup. Sidney Crosby has already cemented himself as, in my opinion, the sixth best player of all time. I can't.
He doesn't need to leave Pittsburgh.
No. And he really is the guy that, when you think about it, saved the Pittsburgh Penguins. Because once he was there, then they got the new stadium, everything. It was, I think did I say that he saved two franchises at one point? Because I was mentioning something else, but no, I got to remember the point that I made. Unfortunately, I'm on a microphone and I can't remember it. So, I got to look at the goals of the year candidates that are coming up soon. By the way, Phil, that's another one. Hit us with a couple more comments, guys. We're probably going to go to 4:30. So we got 4 more minutes. I'm not going to say that. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of did.
Phil, I do have to say, I wish I lived in that parallel universe. It would be like
the Rangers got Crosby.
Where the Rangers got Crosby. It's
Oh.
like Man in the High Castle, where they see the images of where the Nazis didn't win the war in that show. That was actually a pretty good show, from what I understand. I have not been able to get into it, but where the Rangers got Crosby. Think about this. What was the Rangers' number one problem in Henrik Lundqvist's career? Not enough goals.
Not enough goals and not just no depth at center.
They would have absolutely destroyed the NHL with those two. And on top of it,
could you imagine here's the thing. Looking back at those first couple of years out of the lockout, you would have had a Sidney Crosby that would have came in, and he probably would have been a 100 and something point player because he would have been playing with Jágr.
mm-hmm.
And you got him, Jágr, and Straka. And even if you sign both Straka and Nylander, what that allows you to do, it allows you, or you could even put Ruchinski with Crosby and Jágr, and then put Straka and Nylander on the second line with Pruka. And then you have those guys together. Or if you don't sign Straka and Nylander, you could go elsewhere, and then you can have the cap space for not only Shanahan in 06, but Zdeno Chara or Patrick Elias in 06. And Patrick Elias was that close to signing with the Rangers. Was that close to doing it. Just remember that.
Yeah.
There's an interview with him on Spittin' Chicklets, and he said that, he was that close to signing with the Rangers because Lou Lamoriello was kind of, jerking him around there and really wasn't up to standard. And then he came back last minute and re-signed with the Devils. So, I mean, if they had Crosby, that's probably a 100-point center right off the bat at league minimum. And it saves them so much cap space that they can go out and they can get Zdeno Chara. You go and you get Zdeno Chara, and you go and you get Brendan Shanahan or Patrick Elias. You're looking at a completely different team that probably wins a cup or two.
Easily a cup or two.
And you've got Henrik Lundqvist also on a rookie deal.
Yeah, and then you get Henrik Lundqvist, who ends up getting into his prime in 2012. Assuming Crosby doesn't get into that injury trouble.
Prime right away.
Yeah. That's all right. Yes. Let me correct that. Henrik Lundqvist is his prime right away. His greatest season was 2012. And I would say 2012 and 2013 was the best Henrik Lundqvist ever. And because he was robbed the Vezina trophy when
he shouldn't have won it in 2013. That was a joke.
Right. But that franchise, if Crosby was a New York Ranger, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about how the Rangers going to top 1994. Sidney Crosby would have been a household name everywhere because he would have been the star of the New York Rangers, and the NHL would have just promoted him to a level that nobody else ever was promoted to. And why not? And
he probably would have been more beloved in New York than Mark Messier because he leads them to 2 Stanley Cups, something like that. And he's the homegrown guy and scores 1,600 points and breaks all the Rangers records. I mean, that's the guy in New York. We're not talking about Jalen Brunson being the most beloved guy in New York because he's got a whole long way to even catch him and Aaron Judge. They're eating Sidney Crosby's dust.
Yeah. Sidney Crosby, I kid you not, Phil, and I'm going to say this out loud. Sidney Crosby, in that era that he would have been a New York Ranger, would have been right behind only 2 New York athletes, Eli Manning and Derek Jeter.
He would have been ahead of Eli Manning. The only reason why I say that you may be right in a point is just because football is more loved in New York than hockey. But Sidney Crosby was a far better player in his sport than Eli Manning was in his. And this is coming from someone who Eli Manning is my number two or three player of all time.
And keep it, but I think people also, by the way, don't give Eli Manning enough respect. The Giants were not a well-run organization for most of his career. He played in the wind tunnel that very few quarterbacks are able to succeed in. There's only one other stadium or area I can even think of where quarterbacks don't succeed, and that's Chicago. With the wind coming off the lake and stuff like that. It's just to try to find. I think the city of Chicago still hasn't produced a 4,000-yard passer. I think that was thrown out there.
What?
And in the meantime, Eli Manning was nearly thrown for 5,000 yards with the New York Giants. So I think Manning doesn't get enough credit. The best player he ever played with in his career was Tiki Barber, and that was only in the first bunch of years. Everybody after that, I mean, until he got to Beckham, never was the offensive talent that he was. But when he got a good offensive line, he was able to pick teams apart. And in the playoffs, those two runs, everybody always wants to rip him on those two runs. If Plaxico Burress doesn't shoot himself, they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, likely that derailed their entire season. It was one of the most stupid things that could have ever happened. And yeah.
Right.
I love Plaxico Burress for helping us get that title. The fact that he basically derailed the season was, yeah. If Shockey wasn't such an asshole, he would have been there in 07. And he would have been there for longer than that because he was still an elite tight end. He was one of the best
but he was also more of a receiver. Kevin Boss was a better tight end eventually than him.
No.
Well, for what the Giants did?
No.
For what the Giants did, he was a better run blocker.
He was a better run blocker. That was about it.
Right, but
that was it.
Right. Shockey fit more of the Kerry Collins era Giants. Throw the ball around all over the place.
Because Jeremy Shockey was actually a great receiver. Come on, man.
All right. Well, yes, you're right about that one.
Well,
I was trying to talk up Kevin Boss, and I had to back off my comment a little bit.
I mean, listen, I liked Kevin Boss, but are we come on? You can't be serious. He had 2,033 career yards. Shockey could get that in a season and a half.
Shockey was on the 2008 Saints, right?
Yeah, because he was part of the 2007 Giants, but
so he went back-to-back Super Bowls.
They did give him a Super Bowl ring for it, and he was a part of the 2010 New Orleans Saints.
That was a 2010.
The 2009 Saints. So.
Yeah. A quick comment from JE right here. Yandel, he could be a fun color guy. I think Yandel could be fun. I just don't know whether or not he's the guy that do it live.
He's got. I mean, I'm
great
okay with him in the studio because he just. I feel like he's very chill. He's a little too chill for it. I'm not saying that he has no personality, but he's very. He comes across as quiet, reserved. I think with other guys that are more boisterous and louder, I think he works better with that. That's just me, though.
Although, Phil, I got to also say this sentence. First off, let me just say I love Keith Yandel. Great job.
I like Yandel.
I was a fan of him going back to Arizona. Though when he had to leave the Rangers, so what? They had to do it. I think Yandel's great in every single aspect. There are those things. There are those reasons why we say there's a studio guy and then there's a guy that's got to do it live. Because Ansel Carter, I'm not taking him out of the studio. And it takes a unique talent. It's a unique skill set that you need to have to do that. So, and again, I like what I've seen out of these guys. It'll be interesting to see who gets the full-time job with the Rangers. Because, and by the way, if it is Dave Maloney, I welcome it wholeheartedly with open arms. Butch Goring, I will never make another joke about you being a homer ever again. That's the way I feel about that.
Yeah, but you know what? At least with Maloney actually really gets all over them when they start playing bad. When they're not playing well, Dave Maloney will not hide it.
Yeah.
He will not. And that's one reason why I think that they might be hesitant to put him on air. Is because he's just when they start playing like crap, he does not hold back on them.
And which is good for the radio. I don't know if that's good for TV. I know a lot of New York fans that want to scream at the TV and go, and have somebody agree with them on that. We have an entire fan base on that one. State of Survival is asking Phil, who will the Rangers draft this year, or who would you like to see them pick?
I'm of the belief that they're going to take this pick. I don't think this team plans to be bad next year or even close to this bad as they were this year. So I think they're going to take this pick and they're going to give the 2026 pick to Pittsburgh. I get that draft is deeper, but there's going to be a big difference between picking 12 and then picking somewhere in the 20s. So I also think that it sends a message that if you give them the pick this year and you pick next year, that tells me that you think that the team might be bad. And I don't know if you want to do that if you're management, especially after everything. I don't think they're picking 16 to 18. I think they're going to pick in the 20s. I think they're going to be a better team. I really do. I just think that with Igor Shesterkin in net, some structure, a new coach, and a lot of the bullshit and noise that really infected the team this year being gone, I don't think they're going to be a President's Trophy team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But I think they're going to be in the 20s. And you could say that this draft is weak, but I think, again, the top half of next year's round is what's going to be strong. And then the next year's pick, I mean, if that ends up being 22 to 25, I mean, sure, maybe. But again, it also depends on what happens. I mean, okay, fair, but I don't think they're off cheating anybody, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, they're not.
I really don't. Matthew Nyes would be a great target, but I think he gets signed. I don't think they're letting him go. But yeah, I'm not worried about that because that Ranger pick isn't going to help them land McKenna. Like if that's what any Ranger fan is thinking, that pick is not going to help them land McKenna. That pick is probably going to be somewhere between 17 to 25. And I think it's going to be on the other side of 20.
The Rangers didn't bring in Mike Sullivan to tank.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They did not bring him in to go and rebuild. Like if you would have told me that you were bringing in Jeff Halpern and you were going in a different direction and you were going in a younger direction, then okay, trade this pick and then go with that pick. And give Pittsburgh this pick and keep next year's pick. But I just don't see them doing it. I don't see them doing it. I don't see them being nearly as bad next year, and I think Chris Drury is going to make a bunch of moves this offseason. I really do.
I think he's going to finally try to answer some questions, and I think it's because of the flexibility he'll have for the last year of the Artemi Panarin deal. I think he's going to try to move Artemi Panarin and try to get him to a more desirable location. I would not be surprised if they'd talk extension for Panarin if he's got a list of teams that he might go to. But again, I think the Rangers end up taking with this pick. But Phil, who do you think they might take at number 13?
At 12, it would probably.
Sorry, I meant 12.
I mean, it depends. There's a bunch of guys that could be available. I know Brady Martin might be a player that they would love. I think he plays a Chris Drury type game. I think if Roger McQueen fell, I think the Rangers would definitely be a I definitely do not see Brad Marchand here. I don't. And Bennett, I mean, if they don't want Connor McDavid or Kaprizov or Eichel the next offseason, then yeah, maybe Bennett would be there. But I'm telling you right now, I don't think I also don't think Mitch Marner's happening. So just
Yeah.
do not hold your breath for any of those. I think Roger McQueen.
Sorry, Phil. As a matter of fact, we're talking about Artemi Panarin's lack of production of the playoffs, and you're going to replace him with Mitch Marner?
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not. Even though I think Marner's I think he's a better player at this point. I think he's more of a complete player, and he's younger, and he's a better fit for where this team would want to go. I just don't see it. I think that they're going to want to keep, ammo in the tank to go get McDavid or Eichel or Kaprizov. And you could say that. You could say that all you want. The fact of the matter is that money talks. So,
well, two things: money talks, and also opportunity talks. How many more kicks at the can does Edmonton have?
That's the thing. No, I mean, Connor McDavid, I think is going to get at least 16. If Draisaitl's at 14, I think he's getting 16. That's just me. I've seen some people say 17, 18. I've seen someone say 20. I don't think 20. I don't think that. No, not all teams have the same money to spend. That's not true in the slightest bit.
Some teams don't spend their money wisely.
And some owners refuse to spend the money because their internal cap matters more than the actual salary cap.
Correct, as well.
It's not true at all. I'm sorry, it's just not.
I've talked about this several times. The most interesting team in the offseason is going to be Minnesota, because now the gloves are off for them. They're out of cap hell. They're going to spend. They're going to be aggressive, and they're going to want to look over at Kirill Kaprizov and go, "This is what we're doing to try to win. Stay here."
Everyone has the same set. The cap number, like what the actual cap is, sure, but that doesn't mean they have the same cap space.
Correct.
Nobody has the same cap space, and the owners are not going to want to spend. Canes have cap money too, but Dundon doesn't like spending.
Yeah.
If Dundon wanted to spend, Mikko Rantanen would have been there. He would have gotten the contract done, and he would have said, "Hey, you know what? We don't care what you want. We will give you that $14 million," because it took $12.5 million for him to end up in Dallas. $14 million, even $13 million, 13.5 might have gotten it done in Carolina.
By the way, as Jay is saying right here, Connor would become instantly a sports superstar if he was to come to New York, like across all sports.
Oh, yeah. The endorsement here would be crazy.
Phil, I have never seen a New York, an Edmonton superstar come to New York, succeed, become the biggest name of his sport, even for a short time. And next thing you know, he's getting kissed by Daisy Fuentes at the MTV Music Video Awards. That was mess.
That didn't happen. Or the buzz that was generated when Wayne Gretzky showed up to New York.
That's another one.
That wasn't massive buzz. It's not like they were appearing on Leno and Letterman together and all that other stuff. No, I mean, Connor McDavid came to New York. Man, you're talking about the guy that's the greatest player of this generation. And now, could you imagine what that would do for like ESPN and TNT?
Oh, it'd shoot him through the roof.
No, because nobody thinks the Rangers are the Yankees. It's McDavid himself and what the TV deals, what it would mean to those organizations. TNT, ESPN, having the number one player in the league, the number one player of his generation, going on those TV shows in this market, it's more viewers.
Now, by the way, Dave's bringing up a point about this. Henrik Lundqvist was going on those shows for two reasons. One, yes, his excellence to his sport and the New York Rangers. The other reason why is Henrik Lundqvist had a very boisterous personality and was named one of People's Magazine's most 50 most beautiful people, I think, in his rookie season, which is funny because he has a twin brother that wasn't on there. But that was some of those things that he was able to really market and really show off. And look, Connor McDavid, he's not exactly Henrik. He is more of the on ice thing, though.
Yeah, I think that was fake. I think that was edited. I mean, I could be wrong, but I believe that was edited.
I don't know. I heard somebody say he thought it was fake. I just put it on our Instagram and just said, what? So
yeah, if that was true, that's, I mean, good for him. But I mean, I don't. Yeah. I'll tell you right now, McDavid coming to New York would generate a lot of buzz for hockey, and it would do so in a big market. With the greatest player of the generation being here, TNT and ESPN would be salivating over that.
And there's Phil. The other thing is, I know people are going to go, "Oh, but it's the New York Rangers, they're not the Yankees." Keep in mind, there's two types of people that watch the New York Yankees: those that love the Yankees, those that hate the Yankees. And that would happen with the Rangers too.
Pretty much.
And McDavid would be 29 by the time he signs the next deal. 7-year deal, because he can't sign an 8 unless he gets traded, would put him to 37 years old. His contract would expire at a younger age than Igor Shesterkin's.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think that you have to load it up. You really do have to load it up, especially if you're smart. You've got to keep and not only that, but this free agency class is not great. It's not great. No, it's not that his concern needs to be making money for ESPN or TNT. It's the fact that New York is one of the biggest markets for sports. And the endorsement deals that he could get if he came here would be off the charts. And he'd be all over the city. He'd absolutely be all over the city.
Yes, same right here with what David's saying. I hate the Yankees, but I don't watch them. Well, I mean, even when I didn't like the Yankees, you still watch the Yankees. I'm officially in the Yankees family. So,
McDavid's married.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to all that.
Yeah, you're a legend.
Yes, and Messier proved that.
Yeah, and Messier was a legend in Edmonton already too because he had won 5 cups with them. But New York, he came and cemented his legacy as a true legend, becoming the first player to ever captain the first and only player to ever captain 2 different teams to a cup. So,
and he was the first captain who was ever traded for. Yeah. Like they traded for him, and then they made him the captain. I believe Niedermeyer and Chara were free agents, and Rod Brindamore was a trade. I think everybody else.
Niedermeyer was a free agent signing in Anaheim before 2005, 2006, because he wanted to go play with his brother there. That was something that had been talked about for quite a bit before that, a couple of years before that, going back to the 2003 finals. Messier, the thing is that he said that he says it in the Road to Victory 94 video. He says that he wanted a second career. And he wanted that second act, and there was no greater of a challenge than winning in New York because they hadn't won in 50 years at that point. So for me, I if you're McDavid and you look at him, maybe offer him 14.5, No, he's going to want more than Draisaitl, and the taxes in New York are going to dictate to that too. So you're
and also don't forget, Phil, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on you right there. Don't forget the NHL PA has something to say about that.
Yeah, that's definitely not happening. Keep dreaming.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'll tell you right now, if McDavid wants the challenge and he's run his course in Edmonton and he thinks that Edmonton can't do it or whatever the case may be, I mean, yeah, I think this is going to be the only thing. I think the Rangers are going to make it to a point where they know that his contract's up. There's been rumblings about him not being happy there with management for a while, and he hasn't signed yet. I mean, if he really wanted to be there, then why isn't he signed already? Said the same thing with Tavares. Said the same thing with Kovalchuk. If they want to be there and they want to be there for life, why hasn't he signed yet? He knows that he's going to go to free agency and he's going to get the biggest offers of all time, and he should, and he will. So I think it's the only thing that's going to hold him back is where he wants to go. And if he gets a ridiculous offer from the Rangers, I think there is a good chance. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, obviously, but there's a good chance that he could sign there.
Phil, let me ask a different question on this. Where would the greater challenge be? And both of them are big city places. So you got to ask whether or not he's a big city guy. But his contract comes up. The same contract is handed in front of him from the New York Rangers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just saying, if that was a possibility, where does he go? Where's the bigger challenge?
I think he might end up going to Toronto because he's from the area and he grew up a Leafs fan. I mean, I don't know how they have the space to make that happen, though.
I don't know how they would do that either, but it would definitely take the pressure off of Matthews. Then you're talking about Crosby, Malkin.
You talk about McDavid and Matthews might be the greatest 1-2 punch down the middle since Gretzky and Messier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about that type of level 1-2 punch. Lemieux and Francis, Yzerman and Fedorov, Sakic, Forsberg.
But that's the thing. You'd have to figure out what's going through his mind. Mark Messier acknowledged one thing. In his final year in Edmonton, he started kind of feeling like the calling was coming from New York. Like it was like, that's where I have to go. And then first, all credit. You look, when I break down the greatest Ranger of all time, and I have my critiques about Mark Messier, it's because I'm trying to break down the greatest Ranger of all time. Everybody just wants to hand it to Messier. I go, stop. You got Brian Leetch, Henrik Lundqvist, Roger Bear. Messier came in, had probably the most successful season of his career, if you want to look at it like that. He went to a new team, became an MVP. How many guys go to a new team and immediately become an MVP? Scores over 100 points. He already won his cup without Gretzky and an MVP, so he proved he could be successful without Gretzky. He won his 4 cups. Those were with Gretzky. And then he goes to New York. Let's never forget this. The 92-93 season and then the subsequent season after that probably told us more about Mark Messier than we ever needed to know, because they went through the greatest failure up until this point of the New York Rangers. And then he comes in 94. We will win tonight. And by the way, Rich, you're right about this. Like, I mean, he changed the identity of the New York Rangers. Neil Smith said it one time years ago, Mark Messier changed the New York Rangers logo. It is now a winning team's organization logo. That's the way you looked at it. And I love the Darren Turcotte, so you're never going to hear me say a bad thing about him. But I do happen to think McDavid's got to want to answer that same call, Phil. I don't know whether or not he wants to do that here. Does he want to stay at Edmonton and be arguably the – see, this is the thing too, Phil. Edmonton, you're playing against ghosts. You're playing against Gretzky. You're playing against Messier. You're playing
I don't
against
think you're
Kovac.
playing. I don't think you're playing against those guys.
Maybe you're
I
chasing
really
them.
don't.
How about that? You're chasing ghosts.
I don't think
If you-
you're chasing them either. Like I don't think anybody. I mean, at this point, the only thing that I would say is that they expect him to win a cup. That's it.
Okay.
To win a cup, and I think after that, I think he could retire the next day, and that's it. And he would still go down as a top 10 player of all time. I think if
I think he probably does that now.
I think he's already a top 10 player of all time.
Yeah.
You look at his trophy case and what he did. Like, if you want to take a look at Connor McDavid and Mario Lemieux and compare them side by side after their first 10 years, I'm going to tell you right now, the trophy case is going to shock you. It's going to shock you. It really is. So let's, since we're on this topic, let's have a little fun here.
Okay.
Mario Lemieux in his first 10 years. So that's from 185, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so from 85 to 93, 94. His rookie year from 93, 94. 494 goals, 1,211 points in 599 games. Now, with that, he had a Calder. He had 3 Pearsons. He had 4 Art Ross trophies. And he had 2 Hart trophies. Connor McDavid, through his first 10 years, has 1,082 points in 712 games. And you would have to really kind of do era-adjusted stats to kind of get a grip of, like, how his numbers are in relation to Lemieux's. But if you want to take a look at 100-point seasons, Mario started off with 6 in a row and had 8 over his first 10 years. Connor McDavid also has 8 100-point seasons over his first 10 years, and he would have had 9 if not for that COVID stoppage and missing about 7 games in 2019-20 because he was only 3 points short of it. So he would have had 900-point seasons in 10 years. 9 in a row to be. I might have to do that.
Also, and by the way,
please. You would all kill to have the best player of this generation the same way that I would. That guy immediately turns this entire team around. Everything is different. Everything is different with this guy. So McDavid, for his trophy case, and I can't even believe what he's done in his first 10 years. That's 3 Hart trophies, 3 MVPs. So he has the same amount as Lemieux. 3, they're tied in that aspect. He has 5 Art Ross trophies, which is 1 more than Lemieux. And he has 4 Pearsons, which is 1 more than Lemieux in his first 10 years. That's incredible. The advantage is that Lemieux has 2 Stanley Cups to McDavid's 0.
yes.
But if you take a look at the teams around the guys, McDavid has a Draisaitl, which would be, or McDavid has a Francis, which would be Draisaitl. What else has he had otherwise? Because Lemieux had Jágr, he had Tocchet, he had Coffey, he had
Recchi.
he had Mark Recchi, he had Joe Mullen. Where has been that team? Because until those guys came along, Kevin Stevens.
Yeah.
Give me who is the Kevin Stevens for Connor McDavid? And don't tell me Zach Hyman, because Zach Hyman's been nothing but a 1-year wonder.
Yeah.
And he was a McDavid merchant. Stevens, no one has. There's nothing outside of Draisaitl that compares to any of the early 90s teams that won.
Yeah. So I mean that's where it's hard to say.
Barrasso, who just got into the Hall of Fame when he should have been in the Hall of Fame for years.
Yeah, a while ago. I remember NHL Network, they forgot. They're like, well, Quick's got 2 Stanley Cups. How many American goaltenders could say that? I'm like screaming at the radio.
Tom
For
Barrasso.
Tom Barrasso, guys.
Tom Barrasso.
Yeah, RNH isn't it. A lot of these guys weren't it.
Yeah, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had one 100-point season, and that was it.
Yeah, and it was
it.
Kind of the most forgotten one. All right, guys, we're at 5 o'clock right now. We're at just about 3 hours, so we're going to cut it off right here. Again, thanks for joining us, guys. A lot of great hockey talk. Great having Anthony around for us. For anybody that's still listening right now, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I threw that in the beginning. I keep forgetting to throw in that. Ad reads, a lot of things. There's all the stuff that actually you're supposed to do when you have this.
All really outside of less than a handful of seasons has not been anywhere near the players. All right, so those guys, even without Lemieux, a lot of those guys are Hall of Fame. Recchi without Lemieux is a Hall of Famer. Yager's a first ballot player without Lemieux. The numbers without Lemieux are incredible. Paul Coffey was a Hall of Famer before he even got to Pittsburgh. He just was on that trajectory. Larry Murphy was another one, a Hall of Famer without Lemieux. And he was only there for a few seasons. So, I mean, Stevens is a big what if. Tockett's close to Hall of Fame. Hall of very good.
I got one guy that I could think of when you talk about Hall of Famers that played with McDavid, and he's not even at his peak. And that's Corey Perry's going to make it to the Hall of Fame.
I doubt Corey Perry's going to make it.
I have a feeling he's going to make it.
The only reason why I think he could make it is because of some of his international stuff. But the numbers at the NHL level just aren't good enough. 448 goals and 935 points in 1,392 games. Yeah, I get it. He had the Richard and the Hart in 2011. But this isn't a Marty St. Louis case where the player is close to a point per game or somewhat close to a point per game career and was dominant for a long stretch. Perry was not dominant for a long stretch. He had that one real dominant year. Evander Kane? Don't even, God, please.
No, he's not. Evander Kane's never making the Hall of Fame.
Stop.
No, it's not going to happen. Do the Knicks close it out tomorrow?
Yes. Without Jason Tatum? Yeah.
They're toast.
Yeah, I think they close it out tomorrow. I think now, Jason Tatum's been a real problem in this series for the Knicks. It'll allow them to defend the 3 a lot better. But OG Anunoby can shift elsewhere. He could probably, work on Jaylen Brown now as opposed to working on Jason Tatum. But it's just Jason Tatum is a massive, massive loss, especially with the game he was having in game 4. Oh, my God.
It's amazing, by the way, this show, when you think about it today.
But no, that's not what I'm asking, though. What I'm asking is where is anybody outside of Draisaitl to the level of the weapons that Lemieux had? And if we're going to talk about RNH, we're going to talk about a one-hit wonder. That's it.
And again, it's amazing when we think about the show today because we've actually now talked about all 4 sports. We're not talking about the Knicks. We had football and we had baseball on this, so it's a very rich show today. But guys, let's cut it off today. Great show today. Great show that you guys were able to come help us out with. I don't think there's going to be a 20-point deficit tomorrow. And, we could talk some MMA. Though I haven't followed much since Ali Aquinta left. So, but we were talking about broken legs yesterday, and that was not fun. Talking about what happened with Oswaldo Cabrera and Anderson Silva. And even, I think it was Chris Weidman had a bad broken leg, I think they said. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you. Look for more shorts this week. We're going to be able to get on there. And yes, Josh, that is actually the goal, to get the Big Apple sports. And then we're talking about all these, not just hockey, although this is our first love. Everybody, yeah. And again, everybody, thank you very much. We will talk to you soon.
Take care.